Welcome back to Dirt and All Podcast. It's episode 20, and today we're joined by Shawn, Nathan and John Borger from Borger Cranes, one of Australia's largest and most prominent crane companies. Gents, thanks for coming through.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Good. Thanks, Ben.
All good.
Good to be here.
Yeah.
To be here.
You probably don't know.
Back to the old Macleay Valley.
That's it.
Yeah, so the Borger story originates here, and we'll jump into that in a sec, but I need to mention that we've never had this many people on the panel before. So if you're watching this, you'll see that we're one mic short and we're pretty tight in here. But if you're listening, we're going to give it a crack anyway. So
We'll be right.
guys, 40 plus years in business. You've got a good reputation for capability, scale, size. I was only saying before, this is the first day I've driven down here. Coincidentally, I haven't seen a Borger's crane or a car on the road, so I don't know what's happened there.
You've got to get a bit further yet.
A good thing they might be all at work.
Yeah, that's right.
Hopefully they came there a bit later. They're already on the job.
Yep.
So, look, bit of an intro about you guys. John founded the business. You're born and bred in Kempsey.
Yes.
Mate, give us the story. Tell us how Borger Cranes begun.
Well, your story, how you...
Yeah. Well, I suppose in lots of ways we born in Kempsey and spent a lot of time in Sydney growing up, but predominantly in the Macleay Valley, South Kempsey. Dad was on the railway, so lived out at Tambine and Columbati Way, but predominantly South Kempsey, and went to St Joseph's schools and then St Paul's, the first class, when it opened in 65, I think, in about first year high school, I think. Anyways, I worked there, and then at about just as I was turning 15, my brother-in-law got me a job with a local business, and worked all over northern New South Wales. It was a painting business. Didn't actually work out that well for me, and then came back to Kempsey from up Armidale Way, as a matter of fact. And then I sort of got a couple of other really part-time jobs here, and my mother was always working in Sydney a lot of the times, especially leading up to Christmas and that. And as a lot of people had to go there. And also my sisters were down there too. And so I was living basically by myself at South Kempsey, and no income, so I was sort of starting to get a bit hungry. And had an opportunity. There were some guys that used to come up from Waverley College and play football and cricket against us at St Paul's. So I had an opportunity with about an hour and a half's notice to go back to live with them and then find where my mother and father were. You got to remember about the communications. We didn't have a house phone or anything like that. Yeah. So we went to Sydney. I went to Sydney with them, got a job down there, and then eventually linked up with them. And my sister, one sister and her boyfriend, mum and dad, we lived there, and then we shifted out to Annandale and lived there for a while. Just after I went to Sydney, my wife followed me down. Her mother was living in the southern suburbs of Sydney, so she went down to live with her, and I was living there. So we still only just 16, and we managed to, get jobs and that sort of stuff. And I was lucky enough to get a job as a builder's labourer on a construction site, just by chance. Well, you open the back of the Sydney Morning Herald or the Telegraph, and they're all listed there, all the jobs. And you didn't really apply for anything. You just turn up with your gear and see what boots and gloves or whatever you had to have, and turn up and go to work. And that's what happened to me.
Paid day by day.
Yeah, basically, yes. And
Not much of an induction when you turned up on site.
no, and it was actually hide and fired in an hour.
Yeah.
In those days, yeah.
If you're any good, yeah.
Yeah, and then actually we got no holiday pay, no sickies or anything like that. So anyways, there's another time. But I was working there for maybe a week and a half. We're about 5 floors in the ground. And I come to work on the Monday. We work 6 days a week. And come to work on the Monday, and there's this big blue thing in here. And it turned out it was a Favell tower crane. And the crew that were the crane driver and the dogman, he was getting on a little bit. He needed a hand all the time, so I started helping him. Like by this company was telling me to help him all the time because he was getting on, and I was young and fit and strong. So, and then I started riding around in the box with him and loads with him and not thinking nothing of it. And then they said after a couple of weeks, you better go down to the Department of Labour and Industry down at Circular Quay and get a permit to be a dogman. And and then I had to go to Tech to do a rigger's ticket and, just what went on there. So I stayed in the tower crane business till I was about 30, nearly 30, and then work was very slack. So then just got a chance to go back work in mobile cranes. And then it sort of developed, the mobile crane business developed. I was really fortunate in the tower crane industry to have some terrific mentors, same as in the mobile crane business, fantastic mentors in those days, because that was the legacy that they passed on, blokes that were a lot older than me. And then, so I inherited a lot of their values and family values from my mother and father about working ethics and that. But then we sort of worked with the company for a while, and there was industrial trouble there. And then all of a sudden we had an opportunity to either purchase a crane and put it in the yard as a subcontractor, or go halves with this company. And it was the leading company in Sydney, and they'd closed up through industrial trouble. So I went away for a couple of months up the Sunshine Coast, and I had a few opportunities up there for work, and decided to go back to Sydney and sell the house and move up there, and looked at housing and had a job up there and all these various things, and went back there. And then I had this opportunity to work for this company, and then they said, if you want to, you could buy a crane. And just say chance that we did have a financial opportunity to get into it. It was very hard to borrow money in those days.
Definitely.
And and we didn't go that good. 10 months we were in trouble. So the first contract we signed, I found it in a briefcase after about 30 years.
How many ton crane is it?
It was a 23-ton P&H.
Yeah.
And it was 137,000. And
Which was a lot of money.
it was a lot of money.
in the 80s.
We
That's a few houses.
we paid 21,700 for a house. Anyways, but the house had appreciated that much. The banks and the lending facilities, it was actually Standard Chartered, and they couldn't give us the money quick enough.
That's 2 months of Ben's mortgage repayment. I'm just kidding. He doesn't have a mortgage. Were you two blokes? Sorry to interrupt, John. Were you two blokes born at this point when this was all happening?
Yeah. So I'm a 73 and he's 77 model.
Yeah.
And we bought a crane in 1980.
So I had this opportunity to do it. Obviously, I knew everything about the business and didn't have the faintest idea what we're doing. But Barbara always backed me. I don't suppose she had much option, But, so we were married in 71, and then in 80 we went into this business. Shawn come along in 73. And Nathan come along in 77. And we just had this opportunity, and we grew along, and we were happy to have one crane and support our family.
Yourself, yep.
And then it was a case of when Shawn started, or a bit before that, we decided to buy another crane because of opportunities. But again, I say in this video that in 92 at the end of the Barcelona Olympics, when Juan Antonio Samaranch said Sydney, that's what changed our lives.
Yeah, wow.
Because you couldn't buy a crane or rent a crane anywhere nearly in the world, because 37% of the world's cranes were in Dubai. United Building,
Infrastructure,
Doha and Dubai and that. And so then we sort of just had really lots of opportunities from there. And the one thing that really stuck out, some of the jobs that we talk about and Shawn talks about in that other video, was that all the different jobs we'd done at the for preparing for the Olympics from about 93 first of all, it started in the quarries.
Yeah,
Because
that's right. 'cause
they
had to build
were
the
only
roads.
just just started.
okay.
They just were just cruising along at about 25% capacity.
Yep.
And a lot of the roads had finished around Sydney. So when they dialed them up to get them up to 85% capacity, everything started falling apart.
Yeah.
So we were just spending days and nights
Weeks
there.
and nights
Well,
in the quarries.
in the quarries. And then, of course, it went into the construction. But one of the really things that was really tickled me was one of the jobs we did was the Carlton Draft Horse stables
Oh, the pavilion, is it?
The
done
pavilion.
in all this beautiful timber and was built by Lays.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
Oh,
Kempsey, one of the guys I went to school with, Terry O'Leary.
Oh, yeah.
Terry.
Cunningham,
Yeah, kind of Terry. And he told me later he was an engineer or draftsman there for years. And he said all the times I used to have to work with this damn Borger Cranes, you know. But I didn't catch up with him until a bit later because we'd done a school reunion 50 years or something, and he told me about it. But anyway, so the growth in the company come with the opportunities after 92, the Olympics started, and it went on, and then Shawn had already come in the business about 88, 89.
I left school at the end of 89.
89.
So I just turned 16 and
Oh, you left in year 10?
left
Yeah,
in year
yeah.
10.
Yeah,
And
straight
then
to work?
Straight into it.
I'm not sure if it was expelled, but anyways, it was another thing.
I wasn't going to school that much, to be honest, anyway. So.
But he started there in 89. And we were still working as subcontractors inside a big company in Sydney, very reputable company. And then Nathan come along in 93, 95.
95.
4 years younger, plus I went to year 12.
You went to year
Oh,
12?
yeah, tight, yeah.
Yep.
So anyways,
Can't tell.
That's right.
but then but there was other things too. My brother-in-law had been working up in the mines in New Guinea, and he'd come back looking for a job. So we actually bought him a Frano to drive, and Shawn taught him in about 4 hours, and I taught him in about 1 hour, and I knew nothing about it. But anyways, Bob drove the Frano for quite a long time, my brother-in-law,
Yep.
and done really, really well, and got us. He got us into the market.
He actually did. He did very well, actually.
because he was
Yeah,
so good
different.
at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, he was highly educated. Anyways, so that's how we sort of expanded with family around us. And then, of course, a lot of Shawn's friends he went to school with and
Nathan.
friends, and then Nathan, they joined us. And all of a sudden, by the time getting towards the end of the Olympics, we must have had about 100 people working with us.
Yeah, something like that,
Roughly,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So,
Did you
But,
ever?
but we had a company that was actually community based. That
Yep.
was actually the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not many people realise that, you know, and majority of people come from Kempsey. From Penrith at the time.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
and a lot of people joined us to see some, I don't know, hope maybe, or some sort of future with us.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, I always tell the story about that. You know, by the time 2000 come around, you know, there was like 40 people come from Cambridge Park High School, all went to school around
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
Penrith.
Very
A
loyal.
lot of our
Yeah.
mates just came through with us.
But
They're still with us today.
but most of them are still with us today, you know. So I think we counted about 45 people, and 35 of them are still with us today. You know, so.
And to be honest, the only reason the ones that aren't with us, they've moved to an area where we don't have a branch.
Yeah.
So even the ones we still have, they may have moved to Newcastle
trained
or
them in
Brisbane
that
or somewhere.
sector.
They're just so ingrained in the businesses, they don't even want to go anywhere else.
They must be remote because you guys are in Sydney, Botany, Newcastle, Singleton, Muswellbrook, Central Coast, Gold Coast, Brisbane, Toowoomba, Sunshine Coast, Gympie. Where are they? They've gone somewhere off the map because you've got.
So my brother-in-law runs the Sunshine Coast.
Yeah.
Pug's one of my mates. He runs a Newcastle
He runs
yard.
the Newcastle yard.
So-
yeah. So we have, you know, strategic
Yeah.
It's a
people
funny
in different areas, you know, which is really good because they lead
Yeah.
from the front. You know.
And it's a funny thing. A lot of people don't realise is like this company. They go, "Oh, you've got all these mates from school. You've got all these people." Mate, our business is built off the back of our people.
Yeah.
Like we have the best people around us. So when you have good people around you, like you can't do what we've done with 2 people. I can tell you that now.
No.
But mate, with 200 people, you know, and then you have the company following all them. If you have everyone facing in the same direction, you can achieve anything.
You can follow,
It's
yeah.
unbelievable what you can do once you realise the people that you have with you to take them on the journey.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that me and Barbara have sort of specialised in, that from an early, from the very early days, we've always sort of picked the people up and taken them with us because they're the backbone of the company. Anybody can own cranes or trucks or whatever else.
Yeah.
But it's getting the people out on the job to do it. and I think we've got about close on 1,000 people work for us now in our different
Wow.
identities.
And I believe Barbara, she had a
Yeah.
lot to do. Like
Yeah.
she's only just
Yeah,
pulled out of the business.
yeah,
hasn't she?
we only just sort of step back. She still does work and checks things in that, but so you really need to focus on our people that come to us. There's a saying, it's not from me, and it's just a saying that some of the workers say, and they say, yeah, this young bloke, when he goes out or whatever it may be, with a crew as a trainee or as a dogman rigger, they'll say something, he'll do all right, he's just got to be Borgerised. I didn't invent that name. I didn't invent that name, but it's a bit up yourself a little bit. But
Probably
I think,
building sites in Sydney.
Well, you know,
but it
it's
is true.
It's your name and it's everywhere, but it's a brand, and the brand is more
brand.
than you know. The brand has a lot of different values. So
that's right.
created a
That's right.
brand.
But I think also we have a lot of third generation in the company now too, not just second generation. You know, so there's here about 2 years ago there was a grandfather, a father, and a son, all working on the same day in the business. You know, but now a lot of those grandfathers have retired these days, right? But there is a lot of the second and third generation coming through.
All working it.
And the funny part,
7 or 8 of
yeah. And the funny part about it is, when we had like me and Nathan, we had a lot of mates that work for us. Now it's our sons, and all their mates
and
are
their
coming
mates
through.
are coming
you know?
through. So, it's just like it's honestly, it's just like a
and daughters.
recycle of what
daughters,
happened, back in the 90s. It's the same thing. Like as our kids are coming through, you see all their mates coming through with them, and it's great because they all follow each other. You know what I mean? Because if you have that in the culture where they're sort of all like nearly competing with each other a little bit, being let's say the top driver or the top rigger and all that, and it just breeds this culture in the company where if everyone's trying to be the best or good at what they do, just naturally everyone around follows. Right, this is what I want to be. You know? It creates that little bit of competition, but it's also a cultural thing. So
it's not just culture, but it also keeps that younger generation off the streets.
Yeah.
They've actually got to get out of bed.
Yep.
They've actually got to come and be at a depot at a certain time and actually go and get and that to me is a positive thing for you see a lot of problems on the streets these days with a lot of youth, and it's not happening with people that are working with us. That's a good part of it.
And I also think that a lot of the daughters have come along and they're working different parts of the office. Some of them are dogman riggers, and some of them are working in safety,
sales,
all that sort of stuff.
Invoicing and
invoicing.
There's probably you've seen in your generation the female
Yeah,
is coming into your actual hands-on role.
big time. But I think Shawn should say something about how we had our own training things from when the day I started.
Yeah.
And then we've developed this thing through the crane industry.
Yes.
Your own standards.
Well, what it is, like you can go and get a dogman's ticket or a crane driver's ticket.
Yep.
And you're supposed to know everything in a week, right? It's a training school, but it doesn't really. You can't learn the whole industry in a week. Let's be honest, right? So what we've done is we've trained people that have worked for us. But this goes back to when I started, to be honest with you, like with Dad. So you can't get a ticket till you're 18, but you'll start and learn, and you actually work with another dogman that's got a ticket, and then you're working with that particular person.
Yeah.
And then so it's everybody's job to train the next person.
Yep.
That's what's so successful in our company.
That's the legacy.
That is actually the legacy of it, because if you don't train, your company will go.
It's a high risk business.
Well, it is a high risk
that's
business,
right.
and you won't have that quality
Yep.
still coming through. So, but probably for the last sort of 10 years now, is we actually work with TAFE now, and we also run that. So if a young person leaves school at the age of 16, like I did, then they can do a course with TAFE and with Borger Cranes.
Well, there's actually a career path in the industry.
Now,
like if you go back prior 10 years ago,
there's nothing.
You had to be 18 with a ticket, and then you'd get thrown in, let's say, the deep end, but where we would sort of try to train them ourselves. But now they can actually leave school and, without saying funny, not have any other baggage from other jobs, and actually walk into the yard and learn about the crane industry, what we do. By the time they're 18, they know it inside out what we're doing.
Yeah.
You know, because they've done 2 years of it.
And they know the financial reward.
They know, and that's the other thing I was going to say, about calling about people off the streets. And we've had a couple of young fellas who've come to us, let's say from less desirable backgrounds or lower, socioeconomic backgrounds, and I've seen 3 or 4 of them. They've gone, mate, this is actually a chance. Like I can actually buy my own house, have my own car, because they haven't come from that background. And I've actually said to them, I said, listen, guys, I said, I can tell you now, like we came from Cambridge Park and Dad came from Kempsey before that. I can tell you, you can walk down this street. There's plenty of Land Cruiser Saharas and there's plenty of lots. I said, there's actually a real opportunity to have a life here.
Yep.
So just remember that. Like if you can remember that, that'll sort everything else out for yourself, because you can actually have a house, you can have a family, you can do that, you can have holidays, you can do all that, where a lot of jobs, a lot of people wouldn't see that path.
Yeah.
But they can look at the people who are older in the yard, in the business and go, right, well, mate, I can be like that guy one day. And we can have all these things.
Yeah.
And it's actually a path laid out in front of them and it's quite clear to see from.
Yeah.
So
There was, as I said, there's the first, second, and third generation. There's a lot of that third generation can talk to that generation before them, and actually they're guiding them. So it sort of started, with Dad's sort of era, and then it's been passed down through to me, Nathan, and now it goes through the whole company now.
That's mentorship.
The mentorship. That's exactly what it is. It's the
I
mentorship.
learned off people.
Yeah,
They were unbelievable.
that's right.
But then I sort of didn't even. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I learned off
We're
people.
still working out this
Yeah,
one
that's
Mike
right.
Short situation.
Yeah.
I learned off people like when I was 16. I didn't have the faintest idea, and I was sort of like. But I was very impressed by the people that were helping me and guiding me. And the main thing they were guiding me for was not to hurt myself or hurt somebody around me, because I really, really high risk industry in the tower crane, well, in all cranes, heavy lifting. And I was lucky enough to get that. And I suppose that got instilled through my father and through the guys I was lucky enough to work on. Some of them come off the Opera House and different places are quite well learned people. And so I was thankful of that. And then as other people come through working with us, it sort of flowed on from there.
Yeah,
didn't it? Sure,
yeah.
So-
I was actually talking to our trainer the other day, and I said, and he's been in the industry with us for a long time as well, and I sort of put him in this role because I think he would do good at the job, Anyways, he's been doing it for probably 8 or 10 years for us now, and I sort of finally actually had a good conversation to him about it, and I said, you really, you actually enjoy this role? He said, mate, I love it. He said, because honestly, he said, I'm putting something back in, because when he got taught, and he got taught by Dad actually, but that's the kind of the industry that we're in, and which sometimes is a bit rare these days, like it's just like, well, that's a job. Where we try to make it a career,
Yeah,
So
Is it a 2-year course or is it a 4-year
it's about 18 months. It's it's 23 units, and you learn. You get your dogman's
Oh,
ticket.
there's modules.
There's modules in there.
yeah.
There's modules in there. Yeah, it's actually very good.
Like
Actually,
train driver, dogman rigger,
Yeah.
truck license and all that.
Tom Borger, my son, was
He was
one. He was the first year. Him and another guy, Corey. Corey worked at a different company, but them two sort of were the first 2 boys to come through, and that was. Yeah, like
8 or 9 years ago?
No, nearly 10 years.
10 years?
Nearly 10 years, yeah.
So I reckon we've probably now trained nearly 200 people in that area.
And that's a proud part.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
Huh? What's that?
Easily.
Yeah, there'd be 200 people.
And honestly, it's the best thing we've ever done.
Yeah, it is.
Like
one
for
of them.
training
Yeah,
people and
yeah.
getting more of what you want in an employee, and getting like someone who's safe and got the right background and the right ideas about how to approach a
Yep.
job. It's priceless.
Who want
Honestly.
behind your name when you go to that job?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
right.
it's priceless if you ask me. It's fantastic. It's one of the best things our company's ever done.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was sort of how it's worked out, hasn't it?
Yeah, so-
This is awkward. Hey Woods. Yeah, look, you can. We'll pass. We'll share, mate. Is it cool now when you step back from that P&H crane and you look at like the 750-ton cranes? I saw something popped up on social media and it was inside maybe your Sydney facility, and the Frenners lined up, looked like the Frenner factory. The amount of cranes there.
got 80 of them,
Yeah,
85, I think.
most of them might have been, I don't know, maybe it was wash day or something.
Yeah.
I'm sure they.
Oh, when they done the drone.
Footage?
Yeah. So, like, John, how long have you been out of the main day-to-day operations now?
Oh, about 10 years, 9
Yep.
years, sort of thing.
Do you
So-
still call past and walk through and just
Oh,
go,
I love
shit?
it. I miss it so much.
Yeah.
did you think it would? Did you ever think this would happen?
None of us ever thought that, but opportunities presented itself.
That's right.
And it's hard to say to tier one builders, mining companies, oh, I don't really want to buy that 500-ton crane because I'm only going to earn this amount off you. And you just don't think like that. You've got to think positive that whatever it does, you're going to have more opportunities come out of that. So you can't turn your back on people and just think, oh, rest on my laurels, because it's not going to work. Nathan's got a saying, I don't necessarily agree with it, but he's got a saying, if you're not growing, you're going. I don't agree with that, but anyways.
I live by that. Yeah. That's what gives people drive to keep going every day.
Keep going.
Anyways,
100%.
but I think it's just if you get an opportunity, and I don't like cast my mind back, like because we come from humble beginnings, but like if I would have most probably worked in Kempsey for the rest of my life, I would have been still same happiness with my wife and children and that sort of stuff. But you just get opportunities. You think, if I do that, this, that, whatever it may be, sort of thing. So just on that 23-ton P&H crane, I found in that briefcase the contracts, and I think I already told you, but the first contract, just to make it level, was 13.4%.
Interest.
Yes. And then when we had a stumble, or fell off the cliff, I should have said, about 10 or 11 months later, the company made it, well, we would have lost everything if we wouldn't have done it. And I found it in the briefcase, the second contract, and it was 18.2%.
Oh.
But we still got out of bed and got through that. So all those hurdles, you just got to survive from one day to the next. And these boys sometimes, and I used to do it, sometimes you just have to stay there and solve the next problem, the next day's problems before you go home. And it can be very hard.
I had the job.
Yeah, sort of thing.
I knew personally that you guys came from humble beginnings because Peter McNamara had told me about it. But, I was only having this conversation yesterday. Opportunism can be seen as a positive or negative thing, but I firmly believe opportunities multiply as they're seized.
Yes.
And that, to me, what you're telling me is that you just I see the Borger's name and I just thought you guys must have had this concept to be the biggest, but it's really humbling to see that.
No. Actually, to be honest, it was completely opposite.
Yeah.
What actually happened is, and it goes a little bit like this. This is how, we had a really good platform to build off that too, right? Because the company had, sort of got to that 10-year-old mark. I come into the business.
Young, energetic.
But it's like buying your first house. It's the hardest thing to pay off. Well, so is the first crane, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But when you have two cranes, and you own one of them, well, then you've got two incomes paying one loan.
Okay.
And that's how you multiply in the crane industry, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's still a loan ratio type thing that makes it work. If you borrowed against every crane, well, then you couldn't afford to have the admin side of it, the infrastructure. So you've got to have equity, and it's about equity building, to be honest with you, right?
Yeah.
But what we actually thought originally is that we'd have one crane, and that would support Dad's family, right? And then the second crane, when I come to support my family, and I got 3 boys and my wife, and then Nathan come along, and then his family.
We thought that,
And that's actually what we really thought, to be honest with you. And then Uncle Bob, which is Cade's father, right, and Cade come down. And then all of a sudden we thought, we sort of had these 3 slew cranes, but we really needed like a Franna crane, So I thought, well, maybe Uncle Bob could drive it. It was actually Dad's idea, and I had to train him. It was as I said, it was a 4-hour crash course in those days. But we went out there.
Done well.
And by the time, well, I've never sweated so much in my life on that day. Actually, adversiful. He knows what it's about. But so we had sort of had this little business, 4 cranes, and it was actually great. We had great times. We could laugh.
Yeah.
It was a little bit different in those days too. Remember, So it was a great times, and we'd go out and do jobs. And we were actually pretty good at that too, So we actually went out, we got the job done, and people would just keep ringing us. And then we had all our mates ringing from schools, and then we started, employing that person, and then, and they really become part of the company.
Yes.
And then as the business grew, the opportunities that have been coming to us really goes back from when the company really started, you know, about training people and about bringing people with you, you know. So I think the best way you could say, and then really at the Olympics, you know, like that really it changed their lives. They'd said it.
Opportunities.
Opportunities. But see, the thing is, after the Olympics, we actually got more opportunities than ever.
Yes.
Because we started in this thing in Sydney called infrastructure. You know, and we did the Cronulla Light Rail, we did the desal plant, you know, all these different jobs for people like John Hollands and Leighton's in the day, and we still had a lot of the buildings like the A.W. Edwards going, but this thing called infrastructure, with water treatment plants and different things like that we're building in cranes. We lost cranes so we had cranes on those jobs for 2 and 3 years.
Yeah,
you know?
wow.
So, but you still got to do your general hire work, right?
Yes.
So then you start buying more cranes and more people, and all of a sudden, you know. But one of the big I suppose there's a couple of big turning points in that is the 23-ton crane in the day was actually quite a good sized crane.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't a little 6-ton cap or, you know, like a small crane. It was actually quite a, I'd say, market leading crane in the day.
Was that a fair size crane?
It was.
Was there a 200-ton back then?
Not really. There was
no.
about a 50-tonner, but they were very hard to get around the road with the RTA.
Yep.
So where the 23, 30-tonners, you could move them any time, any of the day, any roads. There was no restrictions.
They're like
really.
a concrete truck,
Yeah.
four-axle thing. Yeah. So, but one thing the next probably big thing that happened is when we went from the Japanese model cranes into the European cranes, right? And I'd never heard this word until this day. And Dad said, "Oh, we're looking at buying this Liebherr." And I went,
I was going to say,
the
Bit of product placement there.
Yeah. Well, they've been a big supporting of our family too for a long time.
100%.
And people don't realise with the Liebherr family, like we got that first crane, Liebherr, and it was just that next level of crane. You know, like the technology in it.
It put us into a new market
Yeah.
of jobs, let's say, that even similar cranes in the same size in all terrain couldn't do. So we sort of went into this really small niche of certain jobs we could do. Plus, then you had like family members driving it. So like we had a market leading technology, had a crew wanted to do a job. So by the time we got out on the road, this thing was just pumping. You know, it took 6 months to get up and going.
Well, actually, I remember that. That was the 8th crane of that size in New South Wales when we bought it, right?
Yeah.
And it was a lot of money. You know, like most cranes were $250,000 to $500,000, and this thing was like $1.1 million.
Wow.
And you're sort of like, wow, how are we going to do this? You know, but I think it was a lot of sleepless nights actually.
Yeah, you'd have to adjust your rates. And
Well, it was a different size crane. So I mean, there was a rate for that size crane, but you had to also still remember that equity thing, you know, in a company that you don't expect to go and earn an 80-ton job every day of the week because they weren't around in those days. You know what I mean? But one thing that crane helped us a lot by going to different areas around the state of New South Wales and going doing jobs where the local company, say in Wagga or Canberra, they might have only had up to say 50-ton crane.
Yeah.
30 or 50 was like a big crane for most people.
So when they needed a crane, so that's actually how we got to meet a lot of people in the country from that crane. And then eventually they bought an 80-ton crane and they didn't need us. But then we bought 200-ton cranes, you know, and so you still had a good relationship with, you know, the guys from Canberra.
And most of the people in the country sort of got to like that 200 and 300-ish class.
Yeah.
But after that, the crane sort of became, let's say, too expensive to buy a bigger crane from there. So when we progressed onto like 350s and 400, but we actually bought this crane, the 500-ton crane.
Which is the next.
And that crane just set us apart from everything else.
Yeah.
We just blew the competition out of the water with that thing.
So no one in New South Wales were competing against that market.
No one else.
On the East Coast.
Yeah.
Well, there was a company in Queensland, Lindors. They bought one a little bit later.
Yes.
We bought, there was 400s and 450s around, but the 500. It was just that next level again, like really big, you know. So
This is, and you know, I've been itching to ask this question because I've already mentioned the 750 and we did speak about it earlier.
yeah.
Is that when you brought the 750s into the fleet? Was that driven by renewables, the wind farming? What was the catalyst for that?
Bridge work, most of it.
Yeah, Nathan can explain that. Yeah.
So I'll explain a little bit about how that works. So originally it was the 500 that came into this picture.
Yes.
And what actually happened? People started redesigning jobs because they went, hang
the
on a
lift
minute,
capacity.
we haven't had this technology in Australia before. So when you look at a job, there's obviously, if you've got to build a bridge or whatever it is, there's an X amount of budget to lift and do the job. But if they go, oh, well, listen, if we design it too big, well, we need to bring a big crawler in, well, that's going to be $500,000. Well, hang on, we'll make it all so what we can do with a mobile crane, we can actually do the job. Then when these 500s landed, they've gone, right, okay, now, so we start getting callers from designers and like, hey, listen, apparently you've bought this crane. Can you do some lift plans and that for us? So we're doing lift plans. Then we see them come back around in the tender from the builder. They're saying, can you do this? I go, mate, that's actually our name on the lift plans.
He's a designer.
We actually designed it. And they go, oh, right. So it progressed from there and there. But the 750s, so we actually bought a 750 all-terrain crane, which was the next step up. So as the 500, as the bridge beams are getting bigger, well, you know, we went from, basically you got two types. You got when you sit underneath the bridge and you basically put it right up on top of you, right? So that's what we call under the span, or the other one is behind the span, right? So you have the abutment or the, you know, where the edge of the bridge is. You sit behind it and you lift it end on. End on, So to do that, that's when the 500 really excelled past everything else. Yeah. And then they just started making them bigger. And bigger and bigger. So we said... we said, oh, look, we better buy a 750, you know, so we can really keep up the competition or actually just to stay ahead. Right? So we bought the 750 and then that was just basically they just kept building up to, you know, whatever a 750 can do. And then, look, from there, that opened up, having those cranes opened up so many other markets that you wouldn't expect. Like the renewable energy market was just going crazy at the time.
Was there?
So like you start doing maintenance work in wind farms. We start doing, like we're doing digester lids. And you go, what's a digester lid? So, you know, a tank on a digester, like it might be 100 ton. But you've got to sit up and lift the thing out in one go because they can't dissect it or pull it apart on top. So you have all these different avenues of work open up to you because you've got these new cranes.
Are they Liebherr?
Yeah, well, they're predominantly Liebherr. So a couple of different brands, but predominantly Liebherr. So you start seeing all these other, let's say, opportunities in the business and different angles you go into. And that was sort of like our stepping stone was trying to go into renewables, which really like changed another, it evolved as a whole new market inside our company.
With the first 500, it started in 2010, January. It was the first job in Canberra we did. We did a tower crane there, and then we went down and did a dam at, what was the dam at?
Talbingo?
Talbingo Dam.
Or Tumut?
Yeah, just at Tumut Dam.
Tumut.
Anyways,
Blowering Dam.
Yeah, it was only about 48 degrees that day when we were down there, but it was a good one, middle of January. Anyways, so we bought that, but that really did change the lifting capacity for the way people build, like all those bridges that we've done on the Pacific Highway.
And put us back in front.
It put us a long way in front of the competition, but it also it had the capacity and the technology, and believe it or not, there's a lot of technology in cranes that people don't realise.
And that's what we talk about, the opportunities.
Yeah,
and you sort of got to grasp them, and then you know, is this the right decision? And you know, we haven't made any drastic decisions that have gone wrong for us, and I suppose you go back to just saying we're going to take the opportunities as they present themselves again, you know. So,
but with that 500, we had an opportunity to buy another one, right? In 2012, it was ordered for a guy in South Australia, and he pulled out on it. To be honest with you, he got a bit cold feet or something. I'm not sure, but either way, he pulled out on it. And we were looking to buy about a 350, 400 ton sort of crane. To back up the 500. Anyways, Liebherr come to us and said, "Hey, look, we'll do you a good deal on this 500." And we sort of went, "Oh God, imagine having another 500." But the problem was the first 500 was working around the clock. We had two crews on it.
I aged 10 years in those 2 years.
Mate, so there's jobs like on the North Coast Railway. This is a prime example. Right?
Yeah, just up here at Kempsey. Just on the other side of Kempsey, wasn't it?
Oh, no, just down.
Just southern side of Kempsey, sorry.
Side. And so we had to put the bridge, Nathan organised to put the bridge beams in there. Anyways, I walked into Nathan on Thursday morning, and we were supposed to be there by Friday night. And I looked at him, I said, "What's up?" He goes, "Oh, the crane's still on a wind farm doing a job down here in Canberra way." And the wind's come up, we can't do the lift. And I said, oh, yeah, right. Anyways, and as a supervisor of the day, you know, you've got the road closed, the major road from Sydney to Brisbane closed. Yep. You've got the railway line closed as well, all goods, no passengers. You know, so, and here we've got a crane stuck in Goulburn, Canberra, that has got not a chance in the world to make it unless we do this particular lift. Anyways, but it was just way too windy to do this lift. So we come back in Friday morning, we'd done the lift, we packed up.
Yeah, we did it that night.
We flew
the rotor that night.
Yeah.
So obviously I could operate the crane as well. So I drive down, we fly the rotor that night, start packing up. The normal driver jumps in the crane, I go to sleep. He drives all the way up as far as he can. Till he runs out of logbook hours. And I'm chasing behind him in the ute, and then I jump in. And we actually got up here with like
10 past 8.
Like say we had to be
that night, Friday night.
No, we drove right through that night. So we get up there at night, and we had to be ready to lift by 11 o'clock. And I reckon it's like 20 past 11. And like this is set up with full counter, luff and fly, everything. And mate, I'm just sitting there thinking, mate, this is just killing me. Like honestly, like just the people, because you got to understand, if you're closing the main rail line and the main road line, and you're not there, mate, there's severe consequences.
Yeah, you'll get a contractor to fulfill.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I remember we were doing bridge beams across the Newcastle Freeway one night. Anyway, and the guy actually says to me, and this guy was the Minister for Roads or whatever, and he was sitting in the meeting, right? And we're putting up these super Ts over the highway, and they're 120 tonnes, so they're big beams, even for 500. And he goes, so what's your plan B? And I've gone, what are you talking about, mate? He goes, oh, you know, like, if you drop it. I went, drop it? I said, mate, I'm going to plane to Hawaii. I said, you kidding me? He goes, yeah. He goes, like, what's your plan B if you drop it? I said, mate, we ain't dropping it. No. I said, I just tell you that right now. I said, if we drop it, I said, machinery and people are dead. I said, mate, that's not happening. I said, mate, this is bulletproof stuff, you know? He goes, oh, right. He goes, oh. Okay, he goes, oh, so do you reckon we should get like an 80-tonne crane on standby if something goes wrong? I said, mate, that's not going to do nothing to what you're talking about here. Yeah. I said, we just get everything right. I said, make sure it's all right. And, mate, this guy basically reports to the minister himself, you know. So when you're doing them jobs, obviously you've got the pressure of, mate, it's either right or there's a major problem. And just closing the road is part of it, let alone the ramification from all the other people who have to answer to everybody, you know.
Yeah, so we thought, well, we'll take that opportunity. We'll buy that second crane out of Adelaide. Yep. And it did stay in doing a job over in Adelaide for about 12 more months.
Just by coincidence.
South Road. Yeah.
South Road. So that was a great buy. That I love South Australia.
The minute we bought the crane, within an hour, it just so happened that one of Nathan's contacts says, oh, before you take that crane back to New South Wales, I've got a couple of lifts down here to do for you.
Perfect.
8 months later.
Yeah,
goes,
still there.
He said, oh, do you reckon you could be up here like next week? I said, for what, mate? He goes, oh, I got this job. He goes, oh, it was realistically what the crane was brought in.
It was always brought in to do.
It was always brought in. But the guy who bought it, he had this preconceived idea that it was like just general hire, where you go, okay, well, I just get full money every day, even though I'm sitting there.
It was a long-term job.
And it doesn't work like that in cranes. Like
I think the transportation was his biggest problem.
Yeah, and he had a bit of a transport.
He's had a few issues. So we went down there and we bought this crane, and this Kyle said, oh, mate, can you come and do this job? I said, yeah, sure. So we went down. So we're rolling there that night, and we sat there for, honestly, 12 months?
Yeah.
We were there for
years.
Yeah. It was just a fantastic start for the crane, you know, like it just worked out great.
So we've had, so with the two, so I thought, well, you know what, the good part about it is when you go to a site, you can say to a person, well, look, we don't have one, we actually have two. So if that one's running late, well, we'll be able to send this one. Well, that lasted for about 3 months, and then they were both working around the clock with 4 crews, 2 on each crane. And honestly, it stayed like that for years.
And trucks.
Yeah.
Just
the logistics behind it.
For the first 3 to 5 years on those 2 cranes.
So just to talk on the logistics, the transportation, I've sort of lost that in the last 10 years, but just say for the 500, there was 165 tonne of stuff.
Counterweight
to move. Mm-hmm. So all up about 47 truckloads.
No, 18.
18, sorry,
That's 600 tonnes.
That's 600, yeah. Crawler. So total weight of that crane would be roughly
110 with the super plus 165 the winch weight 200.
It's about 400 tonnes.
370, 365.
Yeah.
In the realms of that, yeah.
So you talk about logistics, that's what it really tests them. And we've got some really good transport managers and that, and they work in really good. And there's a few, like some of the other cranes in the 650. How many truckloads?
It's only maybe 2 or 3 more because they've got 175 tonne of counterweight. It's surprisingly, the mobile cranes, once they hit that, realistically, that 200 tonne mark of counterweight, they don't get much bigger.
Yep.
In let's call it up to even 1,000 tonne or 1,200 tonne. They all seem to circle around this 210, 205 tonne. And what you'll actually look, as you look at the slew, the radius of the counterweight will just get a little bit further away from the crane. So my thoughts are there's something driving that concept with people. They go, well, listen, we can't just keep piling more and more counterweight on. Maybe it's force on the slewing, maybe it's logistics in Germany they don't like or something. So as I said, like a 500 slew radius might be 6.5, but the 1,200 might be 9.5.
Yeah.
So it's just moving back to give them.
But steel has changed the high grade steel in the.
So the other thing is, that was that. Just quickly on the crawlers and the LGs, how much weight totally and how many trucks?
Heaps. Yeah, so look, we in the renewables, we have these cranes, they're called an LG 1750, which surprisingly is a 750 tonne crane, but a 750 tonne LG, which is a lattice boom but on a truck, versus a 750 all-terrain is like chalk and cheese.
Yeah.
So just to give you an example, one will give you 100 tonne at about 100 metres.
Yep.
One will give you 100 tonne about 20 metres, and the LG will give you 100 tonne at about 80 metres radius. So it's literally, you could say 4 times the size, but they have all these different conceptions. They have like the main boom, they'll have another boom out the back, and they'll hang a mountain of counterweight off the back of it, which just gives you that, like, obviously more balance.
I believe this is so you can help me solve this riddle that I've been thinking about and talking about for months. Yep. So I live in Tugun on the southern Gold Coast, and I come out of my street one morning, I turned onto Coolangatta Road, and I just thought, what the hell's going on here? Just Borger's trucks parked the whole way along the road. And I looked over and Golden Ford Drive was closed. And a footnote, any Borger's operators that are listening to this or crane enthusiasts, I'm not a moron. I'm genuinely enthused by this.
Sure.
And I looked over and I thought, what the hell is going on there? There's freiners, there's smaller cranes setting up, bigger cranes setting up, another crane. I'm like, where does it end? And I thought you guys were setting up a tower crane. It's small because near the airport there, you can park over 10 stories or something like that. But what was that crane? It was what you were describing, where the counterweight's right at the back.
That's still an all-terrain crane.
Yep.
So the delivery of an all-terrain crane, a lot of people underestimate what it really means. So in Australia, we can't drive a crane with what you call the hydraulic boom on the crane to the job, right? So,
too heavy.
So you know when you see a crane that's got the boom on top?
Yeah.
Okay, that boom is too heavy to travel on New South Wales and Queensland roads, so it must be removed from the carrier to get the carrier to the site.
One on the back the other day.
So they weigh around 40 to 50 tonne, depending on which particular crane. So we drive the carrier to the site first, and then a crane, which is a 150, will actually pick up the boom.
Go with it.
Yeah, so the 150 will pick up the boom, and the crane drives underneath and actually lands it in on top of it, right?
Yep.
They put all the pins in, and then it'll reverse back. Another trailer will come in, and it's called the super lift or the Y guy. They'll pick that up, drive the crane in with the boom, and it actually sits on top of the boom.
With the 150.
With the 150. That's what that crane's for, right? And then the big crane that's got the crane, the super, he'll move over, he'll actually set up, and he'll put all his counterweights on, and then you'll see him actually slew around basically over the rear and put the boom at 0 degrees. And then the franner typically will start building what we call the luff and fly. Right? So if you've got, say...
A luffing fly.
A luffing fly. So I'll explain that to you. So if you've got a hydraulic boom, I'll make this really easy for you. So if you've got a hydraulic boom and you're there and your load's out here, you can't chip down enough over the object to actually reach it. So we have this thing that's called a luffing fly. So basically it's a big lattice fly like a crawler crane, but it goes offset down and up to reach.
There's cables.
So there's a third, the cable.
Winch,
so the third winch, so it has like a pulley system on the back, and as you hook down on the winch, the pulley system goes out and the fly goes down there. And then picks up the tower crane or whatever parts of the tower crane, and then you luff back up and you saw out and you put it on the street.
It was impressive to see, and I thought, always analysing, I thought, shit, imagine the hourly rate to run this operation.
Mm-hmm.
And we're
So you
obviously
need a
not
Frenner,
talking
a
commercials here.
150.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
all
trucks.
Mate, like it was you guys
It's a
had
big
basic
setup.
you had kilometres
Yeah.
of the roads
Yeah.
all
When-
covered.
When you buy a crane of that size, you also got to invest in all the trucks, all
The
the
ancillary.
trailers,
Yeah.
and as we said saying before about the Drake family, like we buy trailers to carry our booms on Drake trailers, you know what
Yes.
I mean, or TRT or whoever trailers, and
So predominantly, if you have a 500-ton crane, it used to be around $5 or $6 million. You've normally got $1 million of transport,
Easy.
maybe
More.
Yeah, wow.
1.5
Probably
million,
two.
Set up.
maybe 2 million
Yeah,
of
set up.
transport. That actually just to get it to the job. So the funniest part is, it's actually a bigger job setting the crane up and packing the crane up than actually doing the job.
Doing the job, right.
job's like light work. It's actually the erection and dismantle of the crane.
Yes.
It's actually the most complex part. So
Is the tower crane that you guys would have been setting up, was that yours as well, or was that a job for another?
No.
most of the time, those big ones are clients' tower cranes. Yeah. So they're, we do have some tower cranes as well, but those really big ones that you're talking about, they're normally other tower crane companies of New South Wales and Queensland.
So you,
Sorry.
you'd have stop-go crew and everything,
Yeah,
wouldn't you?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
okay.
So we in the last couple of years, I think 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got Borger traffic. We've got also Borger
yes.
safety. So they're all entwined in our business. You know what I mean? So like obviously we need traffic control. We need safety. Like we need uniforms. We need PPE. We need all that stuff. So it's honestly mostly Shawn's idea. Mostly he said, well, look, let's start building companies inside the company that support Borger cranes and also go out to the market and work for other people. And honestly, it's been pretty good, hasn't it, Shawn?
Well, you want to try and be the coats of the industry. Coats are, you can go to Coates or Kennards and hire everything just about. Well, they incept cranes and things like that, right? So we've seen it with other companies that have gone to manufacturers that sell everything, and that was one Dad said 3 years ago, and I thought, you know what, that's actually a great idea. You have go to a builder, and if the builder says, oh, look, what do you reckon you need for this job? Well, maybe it's not a mobile crane, maybe it's a tower crane. So that's why we supply them tower cranes. Okay, or we can supply mobile cranes, or it could be an infrastructure job, it could be a crawler crane, or a Frenner crane. But also to go past that, now we've got traffic control. Now you can say, mate, we can do your traffic control, we can supply your uniforms. We supply a lot of uniforms to like the John Hollands and the CPPs and things like that, and Edwards, and so all of that kind of stuff is something that you can supply to the industry that you're in.
Yep.
That's sensational.
And it's good diversification as the market changes as well. In
And all those
Australia.
tower cranes, there's about 200 now, isn't there?
Yeah, 180. Yep.
180 tower cranes. They've all got to be at the end of the jobs. Normally for a tower crane, you've got to sandblast them and repaint them. So
Yeah, well.
we all do that.
Are they recertified or what are they?
Every time.
And every time they get put up, they're certified.
Do you have independent guys come in? Or
Yeah, we do. Yep.
Yeah,
we do a lot of stuff ourselves, actually.
internal? Yeah.
A lot of stuff.
So just to touch on that, like just having the crane, and going out and do the job. So we have the transport division, we have allocations, all computerised controlled. Then we've got our safety, people doing that, preparing for it. We've got engineers and draftsmen preparing for those jobs. So there's all different facets. Then you've got invoicing, HR. There's so many different facets involved in it. And we sort of thought we'll try to cover most of them and keep the money in-house, so to speak. So it started off with the transportation, but it wasn't so much the money, it was getting let down by people. So we thought, you know what, let's control our own destiny.
Yeah, definitely.
So make sure them trucks are there on time.
Yes, right.
Wasn't it, Shawn? That was one of the first things. So we said, we'll have 5 or 10 prime movers and 30 trailers or something. So I'd hate to think how many trailers we got now. And so a lot of the people used to, if the trailer come back with counterweight on it, they would unload it and put another object on it to move it the next day. We got away with that because all the hours you waste unloading and reloading in the afternoon on double time usually,
Yep.
either just have a trailer for that job to carry that particular item and leave it.
We've got about 900 regos at the moment, 950 regos.
But the interesting part is, even besides the money with the men for unloading and loading stuff, is No guy wants to work 15 hours or 10, 12 hours and go, okay, can you just go back to the yard and spend another 3 or 4 hours unloading everything?
Because you've got to watch the fatigue.
Yeah,
you know,
it's just,
and it can be done through the day as trailers are coming. Well, like you just park them up now.
Park 'em up,
So
it'll
just-
loaded.
the cost at the start
Yep.
is certainly dearer, but the cost and the duration is and the
Yeah,
fatigue.
exactly.
It's chalk and cheese. Like
Yeah.
it's really,
That's
it's
right.
just a lot easier just to have a trailer underneath that particular part. And when you need it, a truck hooks up to it, takes it to the job, and then when you finish, he brings it back, puts it back in the space.
Just one little thing I'd like to touch on. So I was working for a company, a rigging company, in about 77 or thereabouts, and I was sent down to a job at the Sydney Entertainment Centre, the construction of the first one, and it was one of that company's first big jobs in Sydney. And I met a few people down there, but I met we were called them superintendents at the time, general foreman and that sort of stuff. And then that was about 77 at a guess. And I was working there for a while, and they sort of took a shine to me for some bloody reason. But anyways, then after we started in 80, I got a phone call, and these blokes had gone off the construction side and they've gone into their yard management. Plant management, plant managers. So they remembered me and they knew that we owned cranes. We owned a crane. So they said, would they open a yard up in Sydney, in Western Sydney? Can you go there? And then that thing started. And then the first big breakthrough was the nuclear reactor at Lucas Heights.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was a massive breakthrough in that company. But another little one, before we even owned cranes, I worked on a job in Chatswood, and the company was A.W. Edwards, and we're still working from today. So, but they're not owned by the Edwards family, but
Not anymore.
not anymore. But that's gone from about 78 or 79, and then it's gone through to present day, and there's still a couple of people in there
Yeah.
that were there from the days of the plate.
We just had some really good people in different companies. I was only asking about a guy named Bruce Croft the other day.
Yeah.
He retired a couple of years ago, and A.W. Edwards, a couple of people come out the other day, and one guy, he'd only been there for 18 years, so he's still doing his apprenticeship, they reckon.
Only,
So, but generally, they're like, you got to be more there for 20 years.
Yep.
But a lot of people there have been there for 35 to actually. Andrew was there 40 years the other day.
That's
Well,
what I was gonna say,
just a quick one.
That's a sign of a good company.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Long-term
exactly.
employees.
Exactly.
Yeah, as I said, if you see anyone, they go, mate, I've worked here for 20 or 30 years and there's multiple of them, you go, they're doing something
They're
right.
doing well.
They're
Yeah.
doing something right.
Well, Phil Clisby, he rang me a couple of months ago here. I worked with him a lot over the years. But Phil started as an apprentice with him at the Commonwealth Bank in Castlereagh Street. And I remember the tower crane driver and everything. And he started an apprenticeship there. And he got up 50 years service about 12 months ago. And he's finally retired. And he's been with that A.W. Edwards company that whole time. So how good is
Amazing,
that,
isn't
you
it?
know? So I just think it's fantastic. So those two little things, like about working, met those couple of Spanish blokes at the entertainment centre, which got knocked down and rebuilt again. But anyways, and then also about working with A.W. Edwards has been very fortunate, to have relationships like that. And that comes through in the early days. We were on cranes and, family members were on cranes and that. But then it also comes through all your best assets. Anybody can own a crane, but you get the people to go out and do the job.
Yeah.
Safety, not hurt themselves, anybody else.
That's great.
Who's the better operator? Out of you? Is
Out of
there
us,
like a
right?
family rivalry here? Is there?
I'm the worst. I'm the worst.
I've always had a bit of a joke about whoever the best operator is, but it's actually who's the worst fronter operator.
Me,
Right?
me.
So I've nearly convinced I'm the worst fronter operator in the world. However, Shawn can give me a run for your money. I actually haven't seen anyone wrap a chains around a boom except for him.
No,
Right? So,
he was a really good operator when he was young on a fronter, and I was the worst, and me and you were the worst. But you were most probably the best.
Nathan drove all the big cranes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But I never ever mastered the German equipment. It was all just different to me. But I used to go all right. That's about it in the Japanese equipment. But I was a rigger and a dogman. That's what I was. So, and I excelled in it. I think
They changed the way to drive cranes. They went from hydraulic sticks that you had a lot of feel for into
levers.
joysticks that you had no feel for, realistically.
It's realistically hydraulic over hydraulic with your valves
Yes.
versus electric over hydraulic. So one you can feel the pressure. One's just an electric signal. You can't feel an electric
The
signal.
next generation.
So it all changed. And look, honestly, I did drive the all-terrains on that. But look, mate, there was a lot better drivers come through after me. Trust me on that one. But I always got the job done and always did that part of it. But it's something that a lot of people don't understand about operating. Being a good smooth driver is like 10% of the job.
Yeah.
Like actually, it's the mentality and driving the crew and actually making things happen and PR relations. There's like 10 parts of it. And if you can get them all right,
Then you'll be right.
when you drive away, the customer goes,
say.
mate, I want that crew back.
Yep.
That's what
That's
service
what it
is.
was.
Yeah,
If you
that's
can
right.
do that, you'll always have work.
That guy's not actually watching the crane drive. All he knows at the end of the day that the work got done, and that's what he wants.
That's what he wants.
That's actually what he wants.
And with his least headache in the meantime to get there as well. Like if he can say, hey, listen, just get that job sorted, and that's the first thing in the morning, and you've organised every subby and everything to do where they need their lifts and what they're doing, and then you pack up in the afternoon, that's his perfect day.
So
Yeah.
a really good dogman rigger actually runs the job.
he runs
Can
the
you
crane.
explain to me what the difference is between a dogman and a rigger and an operator?
Yeah.
What their roles are?
Yeah,
in a lift?
Look, dogman's the first ticket, let's say, from no tickets, right?
Yep.
And they get a dogman's ticket and allows them to work with cranes. But then you get riggers tickets, then you got a rigger's basic, which is very similar to a dogman's sort of level.
What are they doing? Hooking up chains?
So the
slinging
dogman
loads, yep.
slings a load
Yep.
and directs a crane.
Yep.
That was what, in my day, the rigger was to lift a structure, no matter what it was, and fix it to another structure.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
But I don't know if that's changed or not.
Then
You know,
well, it's
pretty
sort of pretty similar.
Yeah.
Then you got riggers intermediate, which therefore allows you to put say crawler cranes and
Yes.
connections together,
Ah,
right?
okay.
Build the bigger
Booms
ones.
and things like that.
Yeah.
Then you got riggers advanced, which honestly doesn't really happen much in our industry, but that's more like stage work type and guy ropes.
And flying foxes and
Yeah,
swinging
man,
loads.
swinging loads.
1% of people will ever use that. It's actually a very skilled industry to do that.
Yeah.
And honestly, unless you live in that world,
You don't go
you would never
Yeah.
use it. Yeah. It's
Okay.
very complex stuff. You've got to know your formulas and your span lines and how you string your poles. It's actually quite complex.
Okay.
But we used to, it wasn't so much desperation, but it was sort of like we thought we had to do it. The very first job, second job, the first one was just a quick one, but the first all-terrain crane we bought, me and Shawn went to Moree to do the job, 751 kilometres to do this job for a couple of weeks. And
This is going to be interesting, this story here right now.
to stand
Because
up
let me tell you, I drove the DAF.
Hold that.
The DAF.
with no air conditioning in it.
And the heater was
The heater was stuck on.
Oh, as well.
Yeah.
And we're going out past Bruiser Gunnedah there, and he said, "This is burning me." We pulled up at Bruiser, actually.
Yeah.
And he said, "This is burning me." I said, "Don't worry about it." I said, "Just get a bit of cardboard and wrap it around your leg."
With the vent
Well,
blowing.
The vent was blowing on my leg, on
And
my
it was,
calf
and
muscle.
all
Right?
his muscle was red.
Yeah.
It was cooking it.
I'm doing it. The only good thing, it did go pretty fast, actually.
Yeah. But we went out there to do that job, and very embarrassing. First time I'd been in an all-terrain, and we're standing up, I don't know, 30 panels or something like that. They weren't that big or anything like that. And I most probably, the repairers, once we stood the panel, the repairers, they were patching the panels.
Yeah, that's okay. But
I don't
There's a
know.
bit of an artwork to standing them up. I can tell you. And it even took us a couple of years to learn them properly.
Anyways, I wasn't really keen on getting back in them all-terrains because I had no feel for them. So, anyways, but yeah,
But don't worry, the next generation, that's what I was going to say before,
yeah,
they won't be pushing the levers, they'll be talking to the cranes.
yeah.
Wow. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because that's what AI and the next level of technology will do to cranes. So
Yeah.
I love to hear these stories because, like, you think of Borger Cranes, and you are a national leader and a national staple brand in the construction industry in Australia, but you're not beyond you getting your legs burnt by a heater and not driving out.
But I fixed it. You gotta be able to solve problems.
That's right.
So I ripped this bit of cardboard about that wrong, about that what, wrapped it around his leg. I think I put a bit of tie wire around it, hold it in place. But we got there, and I sort of felt sorry for him later. We swapped.
You felt it then?
20 minutes.
Yeah.
No, not really.
But anyways, look,
We've done
we
some
look
great
back on
jobs
fun
and things like that.
times
we
and
have. Yeah,
you know that sort of stuff. And it's for me, it's been like right from when I left Kempsey, it's been a wonderful, wonderful journey. I just, I sort of wake up and I don't know why it happened to me, but it did.
It was called hard work.
Yeah, you done it.
It's just hard work.
It's just hard work.
Hard work and opportunities.
Getting out of
Opportunities, great other opportunities. You know, you're doing something one day, something else turns
And you're
up.
just in the right place at the
You can
right
do a
time.
lot in a lifetime, but sometimes I look at it myself and think, how did this happen in, you know, like in this period of time since I've been working, you know,
But you just peel on.
it's just one of those things, you know, it's, and as big as you get as a company, you know, it doesn't matter if you've got 200 people, 400 people, or, you know, 700 people, and then all of a sudden you've got 1,000 people, you know. But the thing is, you've actually got a lot of responsibility these days.
Oh, yeah.
It's not about driving a crane so much for probably our family no more. We've done that. We've moved on to the next chapter. You know,
Management.
But now it's about managing 1,000 people and making sure that, you know, wages are there, making sure that crane payments are there. You know, like we have got a big responsibility. You know, so it does get tiring sometimes. You know, but I still enjoy it. That's the main thing. You know, and Nathan does too. And I think Dad's more of a proud thing now these days. But because of what he started, you know, but. You know, where is it in 5 years we're going to have 2,500 people? I don't know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We never, as I said, we
Never had a plan.
We never
Never
actually had a plan like that.
Yeah.
But we've always enjoyed it.
Yeah,
That's one thing. We've
great
always
times.
enjoyed it because we've had good people. You know,
Yeah,
that's
100%.
That is the journey you're bringing those.
If you've got the right people, the journey's unreal.
Yeah.
You know, people will say about the hours you work, I go, mate, I never work.
Yeah.
I go to Borger Cranes. I love being there. You know, so you never work a day in your life if you do what you love. And mate, honestly, it's been a journey. It's been a crazy journey. Like some of the things I've seen over the years, and you just go, you look back and just go, wow. Like, it's just you can't even imagine it happening. You know what I mean? And then you just look back and you go, yeah, we're here now. And, you know, like it just keeps going and going.
And I just can't emphasise how lucky we've had to attract these people, the wonderful people we've had work for us, and also help us in the management, help us with finance, insurance advice.
Oh, imagine that.
It's right across all facets of it. You put it all together, and it's a massive thing to do, but it wasn't done overnight. We learned it over periods of time, and you paid for your own mistakes, and you certainly didn't forget them.
Yeah.
You know. So.
I remember when we bought that first Frenner about 96 or 97 or whatever.
Shouldn't tell the story.
No, I'm happy to tell it.
I know, it's great. I'm proud of it.
Yeah, no, so we bought this Frenner, and our colours were red and white, of course, you know. Anyways, this thing turned up. I went and had a look at it, or you looked at it. Anyways, we got it back into Sydney, and it was just white with a blue stripe on it. Anyways, I thought, I've got to paint this thing, you know. Can't keep going around with this blue stripe. So I said, hey, Macca, we need to paint this crane. He said, yeah, no worries. Where are we going to do it? I said, I don't know. He goes, so we did it in the backyard at Cambridge Park. Anyways, under this tarp and makeshift sort of thing. Anyways, we got it. And we started Saturday morning. By Sunday night, we had it painted. And
The whole lot of it.
the whole crane.
Not just the blue.
The whole crane. The whole crane. And we had this tarp up and it started raining. Oh my God, here we go. Like this thing's going to be running down the street. But it did. That's the kind of stuff that people have done with us over the years.
And,
you know, and look, did we really need to paint that crane? No, but it was actually one of those things that we did. You know, so
and plenty of other people.
there's
like
so
that
many of
too,
those
Shawn.
stories. You know,
Terrific mechanics we've had for a long time.
Help
all
you
different.
breakdowns.
Just great people to have
just
around
good
with
support, you
for
know.
the
So
ju-
that's really what it comes down to, you know. And I suppose really when you look at it, you know, you say humble beginnings. Well, most of the people in Penrith that we employ, we all had humble beginnings, to be honest with you, you know. So it was a challenge for everybody to get out of bed and go and go and do a job and whatnot sort of thing. And you know, we've got a lot of people there that you know, have bought a house and got still got a good career and got good kids and all that. And you know,
and that's one of the most gratifying things.
It is actually
to see the people come through as young 16-year-olds and 18-year-olds and You
It's
know,
just
the
like-
first thing they think, I might be able to afford a car here. Then they get a girlfriend and they might even be able to afford a house, you know. And next minute they got children going to schools. And
Yeah, so it's good.
boys.
It's good to see
Terrific.
Yeah.
that. You know, like that they're actually going to work, you know, and actually getting a good family life out of
Yeah.
it. Because that's what it's about.
That's
to be
what-
honest,
And
yeah.
then
It
their
is about
kids are
family.
working for you.
Yeah.
That's like literally what it is. You know, they've been working for you for 20 years or 30 years. They go, oh, actually, you know, I was thinking about my son wants to get into cranes or my daughter. And, yep, no worries.
Yep.
Bring them in, come and do the training, come and learn.
Yeah.
And
In the
that's what I'm
office
saying, we would have,
sometimes too.
yeah, in all parts of the business.
Yeah.
And you go, as I said, you think you're something like, it's actually really great that a parent can bring their son into or their daughter into a business because number one, it's the guidance they give them. It's
Yep.
the first part. And it's an opportunity for them. And they know there's a good opportunity
That mentorship.
for their kid because they had the same opportunity. So there's all those parts of it as well. And as Dad says, it's actually very gratifying. You know,
Yeah.
you have someone's father and someone's son there, and you just know that they're part of a team and they're going to be there for a long time.
Yep.
So,
Yeah,
And
that's right.
That,
yeah,
that
that's
brings
right.
stability
mm.
and
Yeah, that's
drive,
right.
you know, and that sort of stuff. So.
And most of them have seen their father get out of bed on Sunday morning at 4:30, you know, and that's sort of normal. You know what I mean? So,
That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
that's what they think.
That
you know
helps.
what I mean? It
Yeah.
does help the situation. So
I'm just I don't know how long you blokes want to stay here for. I know you're on your way home.
Oh, that's all right.
But I'm conscious of time. I've still got plenty of questions.
Oh,
but look, it's really
They're very informative, actually.
to get to this point of the story, and again, I'm not, for lack of a better phrase, pissing in your pocket. The Borger brand, the what you guys have in the industry in terms of reputation. I'm sitting here looking at you, John, imagining you leaving South Kempsey with no home phone and going to find your parents in Sydney without even knowing where they were, and then getting to this point, and then all the lives that you've impacted along the way is really
I
impressive.
sort of had an idea where they'd be, but I just had to.
I thought you just strolling around Sydney. knocking on doors.
No, well, I didn't because we moved around a lot. My mother and father were both down there working and that. So we moved around a little bit. So I think one of the real things the thread goes through from those days to now, it was about survival because I wouldn't have went to Sydney, I would have most probably starved to death.
yeah, that's right.
But
And,
I
you
got
know,
a job and I made good money and had opportunities come along and met some wonderful people. But yeah, so
business is a bit of survival, but
yeah, survival.
it's nothing
you know,
easy
to
about
live
business.
another day. Yeah,
It's-
so
it is sometimes. I mean, you can say, yeah, we've got a great company and whatnot, sort of thing. Yeah, which we do, but you still, you know, you've really got to think of how we're going to pay 1,000 people. You know, and it's about decisions that you make today, a lot different from what we made 35 years ago. But the survival is still there in the back of your head. It's always going to be. Yeah, it's no different for every business to look forward to how you're going to manage, as I said, 2,500 or 5,000 people or 7,000 people. You know, it doesn't matter if it's revenue, doesn't matter if it's people, doesn't matter whatever it is in the
All
business.
facets, eh?
You've got to be able to make sure that you can achieve that by having systems in place. You know, so you know we used to have 20 people trying to do wages on a Wednesday because we had so many people. Then we put a system in. Now we have 10 to do triple the people. You
It's
know?
having those structured, repeatable processes and scalable processes in place.
Yeah.
I saw that you'd recently appointed a new CEO.
Yeah.
Up until that point, had that been one of you guys? How had that sort of structure looked before that?
Yeah, it was sort of. Well, we weren't really structured, I suppose, that well in that area.
well, Shawn sort of covered it.
Yeah.
Or between the
I'll
both.
tell you what. I'll tell you exactly what was
but
set up.
That's a part of our formulating. I was going to touch
a
on.
little bit later, not to in the sort of the 2000s. What had happened? Dad had sort of managed the people in the business, and his idea was to find work and listen to the radios and what jobs were getting released, and things like that. And that was so between the four of us, that was Dad's role. Then there was Mum's role. She was the accountant, bookkeeper of the business, self-taught. She's actually amazing at the books.
CFO.
Yeah, she honestly, she was very good. She knew when to spend money on buy a crane, and she knew not when to, things like that. Then I, jumped in the car and started knocking on doors and chasing work and things like that. And Nathan was out always driving the biggest crane and making sure that the workforce was following him. You know what I mean? So
and the job's getting done.
yeah, so and there was plenty of different things that over the years Dad would say, "Hey, there's a job." I remember him ringing me. He goes, "Hey, there's a job at up Newcastle way. It's called this Hunter Expressway." He said, "Get up there, see what's up there," and and he said, "Thies is doing. Think Thies is going to do this job." I said, "Yep." no worries. I said, all right. And I actually already knew about the job. I was through a safety guy that was working at Royal North Shore Hospital. Anyway, so I go up to this particular bloke, Graham Nuss his name was, and sat there with him for a little while and went through the job, and he's telling me like that he wants this crane here and he wants another crane here and on this particular project. Anyways, it was quite funny because I walked outside, you know, I said, Dad, hey, you know that job? He goes, yeah, how'd you go? You know, was it good? You know, and I said, yeah. I said, actually, we need to buy about 15 cranes. And he went, what? I said, yeah, you know, and that's how we started our Newcastle depot off the back of it. You know?
Yeah, off the
job.
You know, so some of those opportunities, like we always say, you know, have come off the back of those kind of opportunities that are given. You know, so the opportunity, it just multiplies from the smaller company that we had until the bigger ones. You know, it was the same as the desal player. That was one of the funniest jobs. That I actually walked in there once with Nathan, and I walked in there once with Dad, and it happened both times. You know, the bloke says to me, he says, "Oh, Shawn, we need a 90-tonner here, we need a Frano, we need this crane on the job." And I knew every crane company in Sydney was going for the job because it was such a big job, you know. And I'm thinking, like, sounds like we've got this job, you know. And so we got the job. He goes, well, look, officially not just yet. He said, but we need you to do the job. I said, okay, no worries. It was a big John Holland job. He said, oh, so and they're taking about 6 or 7 cranes in 2 weeks' time on the Monday. Thinking, yeah, right, okay, this is going to be interesting. Anyways, so I rang him about a week later. I said, hey, that job, like, we definitely want these cranes here on Monday, you know, because I know our books are getting filled up, sort of thing. You know, and I'm thinking, you definitely want those cranes? Yeah, 100%. 7 o'clock Monday morning, we'll do all the inductions. We're going to have like 10 cranes on this job. Well, we sent them down there, and 3 years later, they come off the job.
Wow.
You know, so things like that. But the best thing about that job, we met, at the time I was probably, I don't know, 28 or something like that. Nathan was, 23, driving the bigger cranes. And as we sort of were going through that stage, we actually met a lot of people that were the similar age, a bit older than us.
Yes,
right?
yep.
The Bart Ponnies of the world,
Still
the Mark
with
Hortons, and they still hire our cranes today.
Yeah,
right?
okay.
And they might have even gone to work for other companies, or they may still be with John Hollands or whatever.
True.
That's right.
But those guys, I had a meeting with Bart 2 weeks ago, and it's funny. Here we are, now we've got grey hair, we're looking at each other, laughing about different times. But they're the things that have stuck with us by doing either a good job, good pricing, or supply good equipment.
And mate, that's how we ended up on that job. We actually we did the reactor. It was the first big job, and we actually did Cronulla Railing.
Yeah, that's right. We
And
did
we
the
did
railing
Cronulla Railing
with Bart.
with Mark.
Actually, Mark Lawton.
So we did this duplication rail line, and that meeting we go in there. He goes, "Well, you've got the job." He goes, "We said, well, have we got the job?" He goes, "You've got the job." He goes, "But you haven't got the job." Here we go.
He wasn't allowed to award it.
He wasn't allowed to award it, and I go, "Right." So we didn't walk out of this building. We go, "Have we got the job?" We look at each other. We're both stumped. I said, "I don't know. I'm actually not sure."
Oh, and you got to wait.
Like you sort of say to me, "We've got the job." Then he turns around and says, "We haven't got the job." I'm thinking, "Mate, it's like 10 cranes. Like, do we actually have this job or not?"
And we probably own 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it was
Like he's going to take our whole company down there. You know what I mean? Like,
and we're sort of sitting there thinking, I wonder what's happened.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But we were doing the decommissioning of Kernel oil refineries.
Yeah.
And we had about 8 or 9 cranes on the job or something like that. It was going on for a while. Anyways, one afternoon, the supervisor rings up and he says, from not tonight, but from tomorrow night, we're doing 24 hours a day. So what? From tomorrow night, we're doing 20. So that's all that, you got to double your workforce
Yes.
overnight.
Yeah.
Like, so,
Not that
anyways,
night,
we
they
got,
gave you an extra night.
they did actually. Yeah.
Not the first night. They didn't bring up that day because they were respectful. They said, tomorrow night.
But anyways, we achieved it. We got it covered. So
Yeah,
that
it's
was-
about delivering.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
And getting over those obstacles.
And I've said it before, it's an old saying, Dad, like, if the person wants a crane on site at 7 o'clock, be there at 10 to 7,
That's
not
it.
10 past.
Yeah.
And be willing and ready to go. Go and ask the foreman, what do you need to do? Go and ask the supervisor on the site, what are we doing? And that's just part of the
Communication.
and the
Yeah,
communication.
that's your training.
And
that
the
you've got.
training and the education about it, and that's what you try to set different from your competitors, you know what I mean? Like
Definitely.
Having those cranes, but that's another thing about that 500 and other those cranes.
Oh, yeah.
Like the jobs that came out of the woodwork. Remember the TBMs?
Yeah.
Like we get this phone call. Oh, listen, you need to come in the city and design how to put these TBMs in the ground. We go, What TBMs?
We don't even know what
We didn't even know about the job. The job's not even on the radar at the moment.
tunnel boring machine.
Tunnel boring
right?
machine.
yes, yeah.
And I go,
For North
I
Connects.
go,
Not North
yeah,
Connects,
right.
North Hills, I think.
What jobs is that? And it's like, it was someone from, was it from the Hunter Expressway? Who was it?
It was, let me think.
It's Marty Bill, wasn't it? Was he at Hunter Expressway or?
Well, he did do a bit there. Yes, he did.
Maybe
but-
anyway, so he goes, oh, come down. And I look, and we've just sort of got into AutoCAD in the last 2 or 3 years, Brian. He goes, oh, yeah, we want to do this and this. I'm like, mate, hang on, let's just lay this out and have a look. And he goes, oh, yeah, it works perfectly. So they've already got in their head of how they're doing the job. We go, yeah, right. Like, the job hasn't even been announced at the government level yet. So they're into design work. And oh, yeah, no worries. And, mate, honestly, we went on to do that job. I reckon there was days there at that plant, at the Bella Vista there, we had 15, 17 cranes
Wow.
working around the clock.
Yeah.
Just constant, weren't they, Shawn? Someone actually said, have you got a yard starting over there? I said, no, mate, that's actually just a job. I said, we've just been working around the clock doing the job. But we had so many projects like that, didn't we?
Yeah.
Where the opportunity, because you got the right equipment, just comes in front of you.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you
I think there's another part of that too, Nate, is to, again, it goes back to don't come home until you resolve the problems for the next day in supply,
sure.
man, and all that sort of. That's what you've been able to good with
achieve,
all your
yeah.
managers.
Sometimes
right?
we haven't got home.
Yeah, we've done that a few nights.
Done that a few times. Back in
Anyways,
the day, we
so
go to
that-
work Monday and come home Thursday.
I've actually had my daughter ask me once, she goes, because I used to go away a lot with work with the
Big
cranes.
cranes, yeah.
She says, Dad, where'd you go this week? I haven't been anywhere. I mean, here. But the problem was, because she was only, say, 7 or 8, I was getting home like 9 or 10 o'clock at night and leaving at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
So by the time she's in bed and wakes up again, I'd been at God. And I'd been for the whole week. And she goes, where'd you go, Dad? And I said, I haven't been anywhere. What are you talking about?
I'm home.
I haven't even thought about it because you've been that busy working. And then you go, oh, I haven't seen you because you've been in bed every night when I get home. You know,
Yeah.
so that, and that's the sort of work you have sometimes, as you say. Sometimes it's just busy.
gotta be
and
done.
You just got to get it done.
Yeah.
So,
But you know those TBMs talking about that job. I remember that. Yeah, they dragged us up. Like we went in there and they sort of said,
like
"Oh,
George Street or something,
yeah,
yeah,
it was
remember?
actually." And they said, "Oh, look, we can't really go through it too much, but you know," and we had to sign disclosures back in those
100%.
days. And they said, "Oh, look, you can't tell anyone." And we said, "Yeah, that's fine," you know, and because the government they were buying them those TBMs for like something like $18 million, and they had buyback plans on them, right? And those twin TBMs. Then we said, "Oh,
Shawn
yeah,
and
okay.
Elizabeth, I think they
Yeah,
were.
something like that, Charlotte and Elizabeth." Anyways, we said, "Yeah, no worries, okay." So we. Anyways, about 12 months later, I'm sitting at home in the back room watching a bit of news, and and my father-in-law was sitting next to me. He goes, "Hey, did you see that?" I said, "Oh, what's that?" He goes, "Oh, there's some TBMs. What are they like? These TBMs coming into the country, you know?" And I said, "Yeah, I seen that, you know." Anyways, he goes, "Oh," he said, "Oh, they're for a job up here." I said, "Yeah." And I'm thinking, I've actually known for about 12 months, you know.
weren't allowed to
But
say.
there's some of the things that we face, you know. And there was a big job at Cadia Gold Mine. And they rang me up once and they said, "Hey, we believe you've got a 500-ton crane. We want to design the job around that particular crane." I said, "Yeah, we do." You know, so that was in 2009. We didn't get the crane till 2010, but that's how sometimes people planning
Advance,
they'll
definitely.
plan
100%.
stuff out. You
Full
know,
engineers.
Supply.
But you know, the funny part about that was, and as I was saying, it was the first time I'd ever heard, and they said, "We've bought these big TBMs. They're Chinese." Remember that was the first time, and everyone's going, "Chinese," you know. Like, but what they were an Italian company that got all their insides, their intricate stuff, and they put them inside a Chinese TBM, like the steel and the welding and all that sort of stuff. And everyone's going, and like this is back in 2012, 11?
Yeah, 11.
And people
11,
going like, "Oh, Chinese, it's going to break down all the time." It's all this, mate. Those things powered through
Yeah,
this
they
job.
did.
It was one of the only, and I've told in 25 years of doing infrastructure, it's one of the only 1 or 2 jobs where they said the job went great, we made money.
Okay.
Yep, like it was actually, and these TBMs they were meant to go through, call it in 8 months, 9 months, went through in 6 months.
Yeah.
I just powered through the whole
did.
job, and we pulled them out at the other end. And anyway, so
Near Epping.
Huh?
Pulled
Near Epping Station. We actually pulled them out. So, but the interesting part was, that was our first real exposure to people start looking at alternative countries for manufacturing, right? Where you really start to see, hey, mate, and because back then it was like, what are we talking about? But now,
Quality.
Just to follow that up, the last episode that's actually live now, it was a Kubra, and we sort of touched on that, the nationalism, the perception, Liebherr, German engineering. There is that traditional look at manufacturing, but things are changing.
Yeah. Have any of the Chinese cranes?
We've bought a few crawler cranes in Chinese, maybe 10, Nave, roughly.
Yeah, I think we're at about 10 or 12 cranes already.
Yep.
Not the
I
old
think
cranes yet.
I think they've been in China or Asia more than what you've have been in Sydney.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
last
I've been over
6 months.
I've been
Have
over
you?
3 times in the last, say, 8 months. They're worlds ahead of what we understand. And until you go there and see it, you don't believe it.
Yeah, wow.
So he asked me, he said, what do you think? I said, I'm not going to waste my time telling you. You need to actually go and see for yourself. Like their manufacturing processes and what they're doing, you just go, wow. What they've done, they've actually changed, let's call it their perception of how they build equipment to when they're selling to people like, let's say first world countries, right?
Yeah.
So now they're just building all the steel, the mechanisms and all the parts, but all the internal stuff like the motor, the electronics, and they're all still German.
Yeah,
So
okay.
they get this hybrid of, let's call it this electrical and motor and hydraulics and valves and all that are all the German stuff that everyone goes, hey, we really like this stuff.
Yep.
And then they're putting it in a Chinese crane, which is a boom section, a chassis, and outrigger and all. So the actual manufacturing of the crane is still them, but the actual intricate inside stuff is still from overseas. And I think they're really, really going to shake up the industry.
Yeah.
It's going to change the whole. It'll be a.
The cost of a
Revamp.
new machine, you're saying?
That's right.
Well,
Yeah.
if you don't get into it, other people will. But I think it'll revamp it. But I think if you cast your mind back when we went from the Japanese truck cranes to the all-terrain cranes, 99, 2000, it just changed the whole lot, the radius and everything.
Yeah.
They were a lot dearer, but you had to buy them because they were so much better.
Yeah.
And the customers were designing jobs on them and all that, so they were very sellable. And I think I've been to China, went to China in 2007. I could see the writing on the wall then, the amount of money and research they were doing.
They're doing.
But
Yeah.
I haven't been able to travel since. But there've been a few times, and I would say just that it gets you very impressed with the technology and
Look, are they Liebherr? No, they're not. I'll just be honest with you.
Yep.
Liebherr and nor a Grove or nor a D-Mag. Like Liebherr is Liebherr. It's the pinnacle.
Yep.
Right? We all know that. But I can tell you now, will they become that? Yeah. In the next 5, 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, and maybe 5. Like they're doing things already. You just go like, yeah, wow. Like they're as a crane person, I profess I don't know much else outside cranes, but I do know cranes.
Yep.
What they're building and what they're doing is really good. And now, as I said, there's a few questions on longevity of the steel and all those sort of things because there's no set record for us in Australia yet.
We don't have
to
any history on them.
We have no real history. However,
Resale value.
Yeah.
However, looking at the availability of parts and what they have in stock, you would honestly say it's, 20 times of what you get out of a German manufacturer, at their factories, because their factories are so big, and they've either got 1,000 of them sitting there, or they're like boom sections. They've got boom sections there like I've never seen in my life.
Yeah.
And they're not made from another manufacturer that come to that factory. They're made in their factory.
Yeah.
And they won't have 1 or 3 boom sections. They'll have 30 of them sitting there.
They're not assembly plants. They're actual proper.
They're manufacturing.
Manufacturing.
That's what a lot of people
Yeah.
don't understand. Like a lot of the German manufacturers, they're actually great assemblies.
Oh, they're assembly factories.
Yeah.
They are. But don't get me wrong, mate. The technology you have over there is second to none. It's fantastic. But then you actually go to where they're actually manufacturing in China, they're actually manufacturing the parts, and you actually look at how they're doing it all, and you go, yeah, right, I can see, because they've just taken out that whole middle person for cost, because now they're bringing in sheets of steel and rolling out cranes at the other end. That's the difference, to be honest.
I think it'll change the whole industry in like telehandlers, everything in material handling. It'll change it because, one, the costings, if you're not in it, you're going to get left behind.
Yeah.
But that's been competitive. But also the technology's going to be up there. I went there in 2007 to go to the bird cage and have a look at some of the cranes there. I went to one of the big manufacturers.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, holy smokes, I couldn't believe it. I said, this will only take a generation and they'll be there, and it's not even a
Not even that.
generation. No.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But look, So next question.
This is a good segue because I wanted to talk about what does the future look like for not only Borger Cranes but the industry.
AI.
And you mentioned before it'll be eye gestures or something.
that's
Lens,
right.
you don't really know, and things seem to be increasing so fast in all facets of society. But all of you guys probably have different ideas. What do you think will be the one thing that changes everything? Is it the uprising of like a new OEM out of China? Is it AI technology integration? What do you think it would be?
I think it's a bit of everything, to be honest with you.
That's across the board.
Yeah, I think
there's a lot of facets to that question.
Yeah.
But look, the biggest uproar in the industry today, I would say, is the introduction of the Chinese manufacturer. That's if I was an opposition manufacturer, I would be certainly concerned.
Yes.
Maybe not now, but it's coming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like looking at the wave out the back, set out the back. It's on its way.
Yeah.
So you've got that facet. Look, the AI thing. I actually went to New Zealand about a month ago. I reckon it was about a month ago.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely hopeless with AI. I'll profess. I really am one of them people who say I need to learn it. I have spent no time doing it. Right?
Yep.
However, definitely on the radar. But I was talking to a guy, and he's actually very smart. He owns a crane company over there, McLeod Cranes, and he was really, really computer savvy and right up in AI. And he's developing these systems for an allocation system that's integrated with AI. But it's not so much the having the segued answers, because that's not so much AI. It's having the variable answers is what he was explaining to me. He said like an AI can have let's call it a list of prompted answers, but it can't have the conversation goes there. They're not at that level yet. And he said we might be another 5. And this guy seemed quite smart to me now. He said we might be another 5 years before we can really have where someone rings up and says, yeah, you need a crane. What do you want to do? This and this and that. He said, because there's so many variables, he said, they don't have enough variables for that yet.
Yeah.
He said, however, and this is
Very
just
cool.
in his space. And he said, but however, he said, it's definitely on its way.
Yep.
He said, because he's working on that every space. Like he's got an office like ours. He has actually quite a small crane business, but a very large transport. And when you ship stuff into the country, like a customs and great freight clearance, bring it into the country. So he's actually got a huge network of all these trucks delivering stuff, picking them up off the wall, bringing them in, cleaning them, moving them on. And ship. So it's a very busy business, And I was actually looking at it all, and I thought, wow, and there would have been 40 people in this room, between allocations, invoicing and all that. And I thought, like, honestly, their jobs are safe for at least the next 5 to 10 years.
Yep.
20 years away, maybe that's all gone.
Changed
We
again,
don't know.
Quantum computing.
One of the things I think is very important in the industry that people are not doing, right? And I think this is one of the things that could fall by the wayside, where we're still doing a lot of the training. Because either way you look at AI or however you look at it, machines or whatever, you still need to do the training with. So if people don't want to do that in their business, that's where they'll come unstuck. You know what I mean? So when you say what's going to change, not always it's going to change, but if you don't do that training, that next generation, those younger people coming through, that's where businesses will stop. They may not stop because of technology. They may not stop it. They may not because they're able to get people to come through their company. That's one of the things that.
Well, just think about it.
Yeah.
So my age, I'm 48 today.
Yep.
Me and all my friends came through.
Is it your birthday?
No, not today.
No, he's 48.
48
At the moment.
48 this year. let's
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
Say happy birthday.
I was going to say I haven't got a present for you.
I did another one.
We don't have a present.
No, but the interesting part is, and I actually made this mistake, and I sort of held on to a few people driving cranes. Shawn actually pointed this out to me once. So, get him to do the job and get him to do it, because they've always been that robust, reliable person to always get that done. And then you start thinking, well, hang on, they're actually 50, or they're 45, they're 50. Well, maybe they don't want to get out of bed at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning. Maybe they need to wind back. And then you say, right, we need to start training people. We need to start training the next generation, because once the people have hit a certain age group, especially if they own the house, they've done anything.
Yeah, they want to
Mate, get out of bed at 1 o'clock on Sunday morning. It's a hard feed at 50.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if their kids are left home and their wife's sitting there going, well,
Yeah.
you
So,
know,
What am I gonna do?
What am I doing for Sunday? Where we're going, everyone's going out to lunch, and yet and my partner's working on a crane all weekend. You know?
that's
So it does change whether your partner, is at home or your kids are off your hand a little bit, and financial reasons, so that's the more reason to keep training those people
and that's what the backing is. If you keep bringing them through the training, is then that person, when they're hitting that 40 mark, they can see there's an exit, whether it's slowing down, whatever it is,
whatever it is,
because they know there's people coming through behind them. But if they're going, oh mate, I've got to be out of bed at 2, there's no one who can do this job, it becomes very monotonous and to a point where they go, do I really want to live this life anymore?
Yeah,
it's a hard job.
To the person who's 45, 50, it's actually not that hard for them to pass on the information, because what you sort of say is you're going to want a weekend off. And guess what? Someone trained you.
Yes.
And that's what happened in our industry, Everybody trains somebody, So you sort of, one, pay it back, and two, if you don't, you're going to be driving that crane till you're 70. You know what I mean? And that's exactly how
pass it on. And look,
pass it on.
We're actually very lucky, weren't we? Because around the time when a few of me and my friends came through, we also had Dad to train a lot of us, but we also had, at the same time, we had the demise of, let's call it Brambles and Wilsons, who were the two big crane companies of Sydney in their day, right? And a lot of, let's say, their technical specialist people who worked on cranes came to work for Borger Cranes. And they actually put a lot of information and a lot of, what would you call it, work ethic into people who are around 20 to 30 at that time.
And it was one of those things, because you got to remember back in that day, they didn't have all these 750-ton options and 500-ton options, right? They only had small crane options, right? So with small crane options, you had to work out how you're going to get the job done. Really work it out. And the good thing is there was Dennis Ainsworth, there was Laurie Black, there was these kind of people that had come over and started teaching us blokes, some of the different ways of getting job done. Yep. And sometimes it can be just the attitude to get the job done too. You know what I mean?
Work ethic.
The work ethic side, So there was some really good people that we all learnt off as well, So that was a little bit later, but
Yeah.
I just you're talking about not wanting to drive a crane to your 70. John, when's the last time you drove a crane?
Oh, well, if I could get into a crane now, I'd be in it tomorrow.
Yeah.
But
did you ever drive one of the big 500 plus tons?
No, not really. I mean, I could have, but I was required in other parts. I
of the
mean,
business,
I couldn't have drove it very well, but I could have drove it at a pinch.
Yep.
And I just really think that I was required in other areas, administration, and because these boys were, they were out working and that. But I remember I went to a job, and they said, this friend of ours said, work friend, he says, I want you to drive this crane. I went, what crane? He says, this one here. I said, for this last lift of a beam.
Of the job.
Of the job. I went, really? Anyways, he goes, yeah. He says, jump in it. And this other bloke who was the driver and knew it backwards, he was standing next to me on the platform, and he's helped me. And anyways, all these government officials turn up and ministers and everything else.
And don't have to drive the crane.
And I had to drive the bloody crane. And I thought, if you poor buggers knew what it was, and I took it as slow as buggers still swung, and all this sort of stuff, and Stoney saying, do this. Our driver saying, do this, do that, and all that. I said, it's all right for you. I don't even know how to do this thing. Anyways, I had other areas to work at. I would have been better off being the dogman, the rigger putting it in position. Certainly not the crane driver. And after that, I stayed well clear of it. That'd be about 10 years ago.
But even we don't get to drive cranes.
I
love it.
Yeah. Like honestly, driving cranes is the best fun.
Okay.
You go out with your crew, you have a fun day, you go, and it's a great part of life. But look, that part of us, me and Shawn. Like Shawn actually became supervisor, manager long before I did. I drive cranes as long as I could. But that part of my life sort of finished. By the time we sort of hit the 300 and 500 mark, I was right at the end of my driving career.
Yeah.
And I actually, as Dad said, I had another bloke who was a mate of mine from school, Stoney. He was sort of like let's say my dogman, but he was also the next driver in line. And he sort of took over the realm pretty much as I sort of stepped back, and he started driving the 300 and the 500 and taking on the world. So, as I said, we're very lucky to have the right people around us.
Yeah, we're very fortunate.
They were young enough.
Yeah.
They were smart enough, and they actually knew how to do the job. And they worked with me, and I worked with Dad, and the right people to instill, say, mate, this is what a job.
You felt safe doing that job.
That's right. And then the right attitude to actually get the job done.
But it didn't start with me, it went back to the people that I had
Yeah, that's right.
when
Yeah.
I was young.
That's
It
right.
Yeah, that's right.
Just passing it on, mate.
was
Passing it
passing
on.
that knowledge on.
that's
So,
right,
anyways,
This is the longest we've ever gone on the
Oh,
podcast.
shit.
We've never seen the counter reach 100.
I was just
So-
wondering if it was still recording.
No, well, I hope so. Is the camera still going? Yep, sweet, we're still on. We conscious of time, and you blokes have got to go. I got to go. We've all got to.
that's
Look, I could sit here all day, and maybe we
Just a
should
few
do
of
it at
these
the Southwest
stories.
Drops.
Yeah.
We should have done it at the Seabreeze Hotel over the weekend, maybe. But we wrap every episode up with a little segment we call 5 Quick Ones, and we just hit you with some pretty quick questions.
Oh, that's why you wouldn't show me that.
No, but look, to be
No,
honest, they're
not too bad.
relatively.
No, it's all good.
No, no.
Sometimes they're
Nah,
embarrassing.
honestly, it's been fantastic.
How about
It's
that?
real good.
Well, I already asked one, which was who was the better operator. I felt like it was the time to say it. But I guess I'll start with, like, what's the most satisfying part of the lift? Is it the nice setup, the execution, the seeing the final result, making sure it actually all goes to plan? What is it?
There is a saying. I'll let them. So every crane driver, right? Doesn't matter who you are, but every crane driver, when you're driving past, your kids get the. I've done that lift over there. I've put that bridge up there, the whole way, right?
the Seabus ad. I built that place.
Yeah, that's right. So apparently we've built everything, right? With a couple other blokes apparently.
Helping us.
Right? They're
There's a
helping us,
couple
right?
other people
But generally, that's one of the things that you go up the Hunter Expressway and I used to say, oh yeah, so we did that bridge but now say Sam, my youngest, is in the car with me. He goes, Dad, I already know. Don't say it. You already built that
built
bridge.
bridge.
So there's a couple.
Unfortunately for me, they've already pulled a lot of the buildings
that's
back
right.
down. I
mine now.
worked on a job, and years later, Shawn was with me in the late 80s or 90s, and I pulled up on a job in the middle of the city, Sydney, and said, oh, what are we doing? And he goes, scaffold, we're going to put these needles in on the floor. I said, oh, what for? He said, we've got to scaffold the 38 floors out. So, oh, what's up? We're demolishing it. So, but hang on a minute. It only went up when I was a young bloke. And that's happened a few times. I think the entertainment centre has been put up twice, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So there you are from. Anyways,
every time.
yeah. So the most important thing for me to getting the job done safely, nobody get hurt, and get the job accomplished, and getting paid for the job.
Yeah.
You know what my best one is? Make it impossible possible.
Oh, yeah.
The jobs that other people knock back, the
Yeah.
jobs that no one else will do, or the jobs you just think, mate, that's never going to work. Doing
Think
them
of a
jobs
way.
are the best jobs by a
Yeah.
mile. Because I tell you, me and Sonny, who works with us still, we actually talk about the same thing. It's like the sleepless nights before a major job.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And
Thinking
you'll go
about
back and you'll remeasure this same job 15 times. Did I miss this?
In
Did
the
I
head.
miss it? Did I miss that? Because by the time you get there on the day, you're in the hundreds of thousands of dollars because of all the trucks and trailers and permits
Yep.
and everything else. So if you don't get it right, it's a major problem,
Yeah.
right? But those ones, and every now and again, you would say you might get one every couple of years where you just go, mate, this is just a week of sleepless nights leading up to it. Just going through and making sure everything's right. They're the most satisfying jobs.
Yeah.
When especially when somebody else says, mate, that can't be done, and go, yes, it can. You know, they're the most satisfying ones for
There
me.
was a job in the city in Pitt Street. It was a Pitt Street.
Oh,
This
no,
might
Castle
be
Rock.
my question.
Castle Rock.
Okay.
Most memorable lift.
For the company, yeah, honestly, we do thousands of
Yeah.
lifts, and some of the lifts we do, I can't believe that we do them, like it's, you could win every award with it, to be honest with you. But with there was one we did a tower crane at Westfields in the city, and it was set up on a grillage over a railway line, right? And there was only one engineer that actually would sign off on that.
Richard
particular-
from
Ri-
Vietnam.
Rich- Richard, yeah. And I went in there and I thought, what the hell? Like, why are we doing it like this? It's just. And then Nathan explained to me there was a railway line underneath it, and our crane was pretty much floating over a bridge that we made to go over this tunnel. And I thought,
Unbelievable.
and I thought
engineering.
the engineering in that job is something that I just couldn't believe. I mean, we've done wind farms, we've done heaps of different jobs, but that one to me was a spectacular.
out of the ordinary.
It was
I'd
just
say.
out of the
CBD,
ordinary. It was
everything.
CBD.
Yeah.
Like, and you got the back of the crane slewing around, and it's an inch off this part of the building, it's an inch off that part of the glass. It's just, it was just so precise, that job, and we had to build sand pits as well to level the pads out, because you get sand down and it sort of levels it out. It was just one of those jobs.
yeah.
I just thought, mate, it was just an amazing job, how they could even come up with that.
Oh.
And I think it was pretty much when they finished the fields
Yeah,
in there,
it
didn't
was
they?
the end of the
It
week.
was the last job.
It's like we did a job in Castlereagh Street.
And there was a fair few people that turned up for that job that have been in the crane industry for a long time. And I sort of thought, I wonder, I haven't seen this particular bloke for years, you know. But I think it was one of those jobs that was like a very hard engineering.
Oh, they're having a
job.
sticky
They just come there to watch, you know what I mean? So,
Wow.
There's a tower crane, not ours, fell over down at Arncliffe.
Yeah, Willow Creek.
yeah,
Willow Creek.
That was a really.
And Nathan was down there, and I went down and thought, I might have to go home now. It was a really hard job, and we'd done it in conjunction with Gillespie's, I think.
No, yeah, we hired him in.
Yeah. But that was a difficult job. The tower crane had fell over, and the
riggers were actually building the tower crane, and what happened? They actually slewed, and the
That's
base
right,
the base design, the actual lugs were designed backwards. So instead of being in shear, where you put pins through that way, they put them that way. They're in four. They're in. So basically, as the weight transferred, they just literally rolled out, and they had 5 men up on top of the crane, and it actually fell down, and it actually landed. The back deck hit the building, and then the towers went down like that. Mate, these 5 guys are up on top of this when it went over. So it fell 20 metres across the street, roughly 20 metres.
How high?
Hit down 80 metres. It was up there, or maybe 60, 70 metres. So
but to recover it was just amazing. Amazing job.
It took me, 3 weeks?
Yeah.
It took me 3 weeks. Just the design in the ground below.
It was all suspended.
Took us age. So that whole area is all car parks underneath.
Oh.
So you can't just, like normally if you sit on a slab, you just put props directly under the outrigger. But you can't do that because
Suspended
above
slabs.
No, there's a suspended slab. But above the suspended slab, there's like 2 metres of fill and then the road. So we actually had to change our traditional methodology of how we prop it, and we actually had to put thousands of props in the whole area to support the load of the
weight of the crane.
of the weight of the crane of all the cranes. It took us honestly, I don't know, maybe 3 days just to put all the props in. And as I said, these concepts and that stuff, it's just, and you're working around the clock, you know, because obviously every news person's there, the commissioner for police audit, they're all there.
Every person.
Got to do it right.
Yeah, it was a really, really difficult job, and you've all done really well down there and that sort of stuff. But for mine personally was most difficult job. We had to put the signs up at the
Stadium.
stadium. Stadium Australia.
Stadium
what it's
Australia,
called. No, ANZ Stadium.
Well, now it's
Stadium
Acorn.
Acorn.
So those signs on either side, we had to put them up, but we had to build them down the bottom at start.
And then we had to feed them in underneath the stadium.
Oh, you couldn't drop them down.
No.
And there was a roof, so you had to sort of get them in.
And what really worked well for us, there was a heat wave in Sydney, and for about 2 weeks, it was over 35 degrees every day. So I had the really easy part. I was just driving around the suburbs trying to buy water and Gatorade to keep the boys hydrated.
At all the shops.
No, it was 35. I think it was more like 45.
Yeah, anyway. But that was a difficult one for me, but very pleasing when I see it. So, yeah.
Number 3, what crane in your fleet's the weapon of choice? What's the best? What do you love? What's the crane? This is your answer.
You can do this,
Mate, look, honestly, I'd say the old 300 at the start because that was our.
I was going to say that.
That stupidly enough, the day I turned 30, I got a 300 tonner. It was the
Wow.
literally rolled into the country, rolled into the yard on my 30th birthday.
Yeah.
And that really changed what we could do for lifting because it was our first luff and fly crane and a few things. And then it just built after that, just got bigger and bigger. Like cranes just got, I remember when we went to buy a 200 tonner years before it.
Oh,
right? So
we had to bring this up, didn't
so we go over to Germany. You know, we're flying over, and it was the first time me and you went over to Germany. Wasn't it?
Yeah.
So me and Shawn would fly over, and we're with Gerd and Evelyn, these other people who are from the tower crane company, you know, and we're going over to buy this 5-axle 200-ton crane. You know, so we land in there, anyway, we go in, and we drive up to this. Where was it? Dusseldorf.
Dusseldorf,
It's in Dusseldorf.
And we get there, and they've just sold the crane the day before. Right. So we've flown 24 hours, and they go, sorry, the crane's been sold. Oh, come on. So we're sitting in this yard, you know, and they're out the back looking at all these other cranes, looking around, and I go, oh, that looks all right. I'll have a look at this crane. You know,
it was a 250, wasn't it?
It was a 250, and I had a laugh and fly, and I'm looking through going, oh, these charts are fantastic. Well, this crane's a really good crane. I said to Shawn and Gerd, hey, why don't we buy this crane? I said, this is a banger, like some great charts, lifts like nothing else. They go, Nathan, you're an idiot. Why would we want a 250-ton crane with a luff and fly? Stop wasting our time. Good crane. No.
Couldn't get one quick enough for a year later.
Once we bought the first 200, we've gone, geez, we really need a luff and fly.
Love and fly.
And from there, we just never stopped. You know?
Kept getting them.
I'll just quickly answer that one question, right? I can't agree. I wouldn't agree with the 300 because I thought it was a great crane, and still is, right? But honestly, that 500 was a mark that changed our business. That's
Our business changer.
I love
100%.
it. That's so I got to go with the 500 because it was just such a big thing, you know. So it was it changed our business career. Sorry, our future.
Well, they design jobs for
that crane.
So we give the tier one builders the opportunity
That's right.
to say, hang on, we'll be able to build the beams this way or whatever it was.
It was
the
just so
structure.
strong.
It's such a great crane for
as a
its day.
capacity, right? So a capacity of say the 400, 450, it might be good for 20 ton at 100 metres high. That thing was good for 54 ton. Like it was just such a big jump, you know.
Yeah.
It just changed it. That's why I said.
But anyway,
It's so handy.
Right.
most probably,
Your number 4.
I want to know what architectural design in Sydney or Brisbane or a major city that probably stands out the most that you've had an influence on.
Influence on or
Like-
lifted?
Lifted, yeah.
Well, we lifted a corner. It was 150 ton. It was a section of a building. So remember that steel building we did for Crown? But it was so basically they built this building.
for the casino or
No. It was actually
Crown would have
no, Crown was a builder.
Sorry, Crown was the builder.
Yeah.
Right.
Crown
From
Constructions.
Singapore.
Philippines or Singapore.
Yeah.
So,
Singapore.
And they built these 2 towers. They sort of went like that and curved around the back. But up the top, they had this big, spectacular glass like corner, big diamond corner, and it was made out of all these big precast steel beams, right? But you couldn't just put them up normally. We had to lift them up in these joints. So I think we'll lift them up, call it, I don't know, maybe 40 to 60 ton, 50 ton, and we're building all this. And I'm thinking, mate, what are they actually doing here? Like, look, as we're building this, I designed a lot of it, but when it finished, and you just this massive, it was just this huge arc.
what building's it?
It's down near Waterloo Station.
Okay.
Not Waterloo. Yeah, Waterloo Station. I don't remember the name of the building, but and you look at it, and once it's finished, I went, "Wow, that's because you don't when you're building the steel, you don't see it, but once they actually put everything on and they do the whole lot, and these apartments up there, I don't know what they're worth, a lot of money, but it's just this massive, big, like square sort of arc that went over the top, and it joined all these buildings together. But they call it at 70 metres high.
Yeah.
It was spectacular.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so.
If I was going to say anything that influenced our life, most probably, I just loved the Opera House.
Yeah.
Opera House. Oh, you had dealings? No.
Well, we've done plenty of work there. We still work there to today.
Sorry, yeah. we
Yeah,
do,
We'll
okay.
be still doing steps there.
All
most
the
of
panels
day.
and things like that.
All the
Yeah.
panels and-
flooring and all that.
But
kind
it's
of
just an emotional tie for me as a young bloke.
Yeah.
To see
Starting
it.
in the game, it was still in full flight. I knew all the people that worked on there. I had opportunities to work there, but I didn't want other better jobs.
Yeah.
But I knew everybody there, and it was such a good, close community.
Yeah.
The riggers and dogmen and crane drivers in those days, and well, still is today. Sorry, but yeah, sort of. I seen it come up out of the ground as a kid,
Yeah.
and
amazing.
then see it finished as it was, just wonderful.
John, we asked this last question to everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm going to just ask John. You guys can answer it too if you like.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we've still got time. But
yeah.
if you could go back and give your 18-year-old self any advice, what would it be?
Oh, I'd have to say, do the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Oh,
That's the first we've had of that.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's unreal.
yeah.
What about you, blokes? That was a really short, succinct answer. We've
No,
got
do exactly the
Yeah.
same thing.
I actually agree. Do exactly the same thing. And the funniest part is if you knew where you were going to end up, you wouldn't be as worried.
Yeah.
But like, you know what I mean? Like, I never forecasted or never thought in my wildest dreams I'd be building wind farms with LGs. I'd be doing bridges with crawlers. Like that to me back then was just stuff that we didn't even know really would
happen.
And then here we are. We've moved. We've transitioned as well. But when you're 18 or 20, you're sort of just driving a truck crane. You're just going to work each day. But if you actually knew now what you knew back then, you just say, to settle down. It's all going to happen, mate. You know, you're going to get there. Just go with the ride.
I remember saying to you two, actually, Shawn first, that your future's already guaranteed. It's just a matter of going with it.
Yeah. That's
So,
right.
what do you think, Shawn?
if I was 18 again, well, I think, probably some of the people that we've employed, when they first started and joined the company, right? You think, oh, yeah, that's great, you get these people. But I never realised that they would be with you for 25 more years and 30 years, right?
Yeah.
So and then because you don't know that back then, right? So, but if I sort of knew what I knew today, you just think like how special those people were with you. You know what I mean? Like that's probably the heart, probably the thing that sort of makes you realise how lucky you are. And look, and I suppose that's one part of it. But there's a couple other parts that I'd say is that all of our wives have supported us so much.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's been times, at 11 o'clock at night we're still wondering, how we're going to get a crane to a job the next day. And our wives are at home with our children. And they're sort of thinking like, when's this bloke ever going to come home, But my wife has never whinged about it once to me, ever.
Yeah. They've been the best. They've been the backbone of the family.
They have.
So I sort of consider it the whole family.
And there is a lot of that family around too. So it's not just my family or Dad's or Nathan's family. We've had a lot of family work through in the business for a long time as well. And look, their job's always there, So, and they've become leaders in their own areas as well.
Team leaders, everywhere.
And I think also, as you said, those people that we had back then that you never really understood where they would be.
No.
Like you would look at it in a different light back then if you had any idea of where the future was going to be. However, that's the journey.
Yes.
That's learning.
That's as you get a bit older, you sort of think, well, it was probably as good as journey for us as for them as well. You know what I mean?
You would hope so.
Well, I think it is, because they're still there.
That's what I'm saying.
Do the same thing. But just a last thing, when I left Kempsey, I always thought for a long time that I'd come home. So, best we do is caravan here.
Well, I think like when we decided to do a podcast, we didn't know where we would end up, and we sort of naturally ended up that we talked to people, leaders in the heavy sectors across Australia. And 2 years ago when we started, if you said you guys would be sitting here hearing the story of Borger Cranes, we probably wouldn't have thought that either. So, sky's the limit.
Well, that's what for the last weekend, last 3 or 4 days, we've actually gone back to learn a lot more about our culture and things like that.
I think we should say something in respect for the dirt and all as well. I just say thanks to all the boys up in the valley who work for Borger Cranes, because they're more than likely going to hear this than anybody else. All the mining people we work up for there and all the coal fields and all that. Like, we have great people and a great business up there. So if you're listening, thank you everyone for supporting us and being part of our team.
Awesome, guys.
And I'm going to start wearing my Borger Crane shirt around everywhere. People will think I'm an operator up there on the company as well. I start winking it, but I use it everywhere, and I think it's a testament to how big the company is grown.
No, it is. It's actually very rewarding seeing our own cranes and trucks on the road. You think,
So
I'll have to get your address and send you an ambrosia hat.
So the last thing would be, did we plan it? No. So was it accidental? Who knows?
No.
Who cares?
Who cares? That's right.
We're here. And we've survived.
And it's real.
That's right.
Awesome.
Sorry, mate. Well, look, gents, appreciate it. It was a great chat. You've broken our record. And thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you. Cheers.
Awesome.